Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Great to see a full house here. My name is Tessa Murphy-ROMBOLETTI. I am the chair of the Development and Government Relations Committee. This is our Wednesday, July 12th meeting. It is 6:32 p.m. We are streaming live on the city's public access station. We are also available via Zoom, and we are recording this meeting on Zoom, and we are also available through the city's live stream on the website. This evening in council chambers, I am joined by Councilor McGivern, Councilor Vacant, Councilor Jenny Rivera is here. Councilor Bartley is on his way, so we'll see him soon. And I'll call this meeting to order. So we have a few things on the agenda this evening, but we've got the first item on the agenda is the license agreement. Do I have a motion?
Motion to take up item 1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. The first item on the agenda is the license agreement between the City of Holyoke and Edward A. Owen with a business at 120 Front Street. We're joined this evening by Ed Owen. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And councilors have been provided the license agreement. So would you like to come in and have a seat? Or do you want to stand and use the microphone, whatever you feel more comfortable with? As long as you're on the microphone, we love it. And you are important. We're all important here tonight. Just make sure that the green button is lit up when you're talking. Okay, awesome. And just for the record, can you state your name and your address, please?
Edward Owen, 78 Hill Street, West Springfield, Mass. My property is located at 120 Front Street, Holyoke.
Awesome, thank you very much. It's my understanding that this license agreement is a renewal?
It is.
Great, do you want to provide a little just background on your property and what?
I bought the property about 18 years ago. I had a redemption center in it. And then I got sick, so I closed the redemption center. And since then, I've been renting spaces. And we needed I had a ramp that was out in front of the property, but it wasn't actually handicap accessible. So I came to the city to try to get a legal handicap accessible ramp put in. And after some time, we finally were able to come to an agreement, which is probably in front of you. And the handicap ramp has been constructed. It came out beautiful. It helps the aesthetics of the building, and I believe it helps the neighborhood somewhat. And I'm also getting other businesses because of this ramp, and one of them is hopefully going to be a brewery. So we're moving on. Progress is moving on.
Great. Thank you very much for that overview. I also just want to recognize that Councilor Maldonado Velez is on Zoom, so thank you. I'm going to pause there and open it up for any questions from committee members. Councilor Bacon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I would just note that we've had this for a while, so I had a chance to look over the agreement, and I'm happy to hear that the ramp is all together.
Yes, it is.
And so it looks in order to me, and I'll be supportive of granting this license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you. Ed, welcome. And I think, I had a couple of questions at the full city council meeting. And my questions is, what exactly is the license for?
Well, to be honest with you, sir, I was trying to get a permanent easement over the property, but the best I could do at that time was a license agreement, and the license is for me to construct the handicap ramp over city property.
Okay. Never heard of it.
I thought you were on the committee. I mean,
I remember going through everything. I don't remember doing it as a license.
Oh, okay.
If
If you want to change it to a permanent easement, that's fine with me. It would be better for the city, and it would be better for me, I think.
It would make a lot more sense.
I agree, sir.
Do you have other questions, sir?
We don't have a signed copy from the mayor or the law department. I'd just be curious as to,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I had a signed copy, but my mind not working like it used to, I forgot it at the house.
Okay.
I can get that to you, though. I can email it to you.
it shouldn't be your responsibility yet. That should have been provided to us, but that's fine.
Okay.
I would ask that we get a signed copy before our Tuesday in August meeting.
Okay. I see that we have Mike from the law department on there, so I'm just making sure that you heard that. Do you have anything to add, Mike?
No, this was negotiated with this gentleman last year, and we had quite a long discussion about what's the best interest of the city. And Attorney Degnan took the lead and helped us to come to the conclusion that this license is the best the city can do to protect itself. It allows him to go forward and make his handicap adjustments and be in compliance with the ADA to help him develop his property. It's a nice location, right across the street. So I think going forward, he needs more time to complete it. And I think that's what he's looking for here.
Okay. Counselors?
I'll offer a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wait, was I supposed to do discussion? No. Are we doing that now?
I asked my question. I
Yep. Okay.
still don't fully understand the agreement.
Actually, Counselor or Attorney Bissonette, is there anything you could add on why the city prefers a license agreement versus a permanent easement?
Well, the word permanent, I think, indicates the city is giving up a right in perpetuity. There's no interest in the city to do that unless it's absolutely necessary. In this case, we're allowing the gentleman to conduct its operations on city property for the purposes of putting himself in compliance with the ADA and building his ramps. Nothing more than that. So this is a pretty common practice, and it went before the city council at least 3 meetings last year, I think, as I recall. But the determination was made that it was in the best interest of the city to do the license and not grant a permanent easement. Simply put, there's parking spaces there, there's public access in that street area. So the city doesn't want to give up any of that up permanently.
Okay. Any other follow-up questions? Ed?
I just want to, I'm not sure how to put this without being vindictive or something like that, but my neighbor was given a permanent easement, and he's on the same street with me. He's right next to me, and I don't understand why I can't get a permanent easement. I just don't understand that. And I understand the lawyer says one thing, but I have the handicap ramp. It's ADA compliant. It's everything that we said it would be. I take very good care of that property. I cut the grass. I do all the snow removal. The city doesn't have to do anything on its property. I take care of it all. Matter of fact, I got hit in the eye with a rock today taking care of it. But anyway, that's beside the point. And I just think that it would be fairer if the city would give me a permanent easement. That's just the way I feel about it. But I'll take the license agreement if that's what I have to take. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you sharing that with us, and I'm sure everyone on the council will take that into consideration. I think for the purposes of this evening,
Yeah.
we're either going to approve or not the license agreement, but, you know, the mayor's here, the law department's here, so that's just something that we'll definitely, everyone can take into consideration.
Thank you.
Great. So I had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Passes unanimously through our committee. So what will happen next? The city council's next full meeting is August 1st.
Okay.
And the council will vote on the recommendation of this committee.
Thank you very much.
Okay? Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Can I get a motion to take item 2?
Moved.
So this is can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to take up item 2 and open the public hearing.
Thank
Second.
you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This is a special permit application for Juan Rodriguez at Pearl Street for a non-conforming structure under 4.7.3. And do we have Mr. Rodriguez? Awesome, welcome. Come on in. And just wherever you want to sit. And the same thing, just make sure whenever you're talking into the microphone that green button's on. That's how everyone at home will hear you. So I got there's a lot of information about this special permit. And the way that a public hearing works is I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and your application. And then we will open it up for questions from city councilors. And then from there, we'll open it up, since it's a public hearing. Anyone in the public can comment, give their feedback or questions, and then we'll go from there. Sound good? So with that, I'll have you state your name and your address into the record, and then feel free to give us a brief summary of why you're here tonight.
Yeah, my name is Juan Rodriguez. I live at 62 Pearl Street in Holyoke. And in 2021, October, I started building a shed above ground. I didn't know that I need a permit above ground, so I started building the shed. And the reason why I did is because I have to fix my garage, which is getting chewed by termites, and I have to take everything out from there and put it in that shed that I built.
Perfect. Anything else you want us to know, or do you want me to open it up for?
Actually, and then I received a letter from the building department, I think it was, and they told me that I have to pay for the permit and I did. I paid, it was $100, and then they told me I have a hearing to come here. So
Okay. Great. So I'm going to open it up for questions in a minute, but I also, actually, I'll pause there. Counselor, did you have a question? I thought I
Juan, could you, and welcome, and I understand what you're facing, but why is this considered non-conforming use? I don't get it. Non-conforming use is a prior existing use of property, within a 2-year period of when something is done or something is restarted, I guess.
So a pre-existing structure.
It's already there.
it was not there, so I built it myself.
Okay.
And like I said, it's above ground, so I never dig down or anything like that. Just
Okay. So yeah, with special permits for a non-conforming use, typically the property or the structure that has been being built is actually something that was already there and is being either rebuilt or extended or expanded, and not necessarily for a new structure. Some of my conversations with city officials, they were under the impression that this was a pre-existing structure and not a new structure. And upon looking into it a little bit further, it was determined that this was a new structure. And so at that point in time, the city council, this special permit is not necessarily something that we can actually grant because it is a new structure. So that's some of the information that we've been presented with this evening, has informed us of that. Just that it was actually not a pre-existing structure, it was a new structure.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it is a new structure.
Okay. Councilor Bacon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in the correspondence that we received, it goes on further to say that from the planning perspective, that a request for a variance would be the appropriate step for you to take rather than being here before us for a special permit. So I really think instead of going through all this further steps of a public hearing, we should send this back to the clerk. And then the clerk needs to direct it to the appropriate departments for your request for a variance to be considered. Because building the new shed doesn't really come to the city council. We don't deal with new buildings. So I think there was some confusion there.
I didn't know,
So the variance would go through the Board of Appeals.
okay.
That's a different city board. And I mean, I do have a few things that were sent in as public comment. Should I still read them?
We opened the public hearing, I guess.
Right. I'll make it brief.
If I could say something.
Yes.
And it's not just about the public hearing. You're too nice, Mr. Rodriguez. I think you understand that you were given wrong advice to go this route. Not your fault. Someone else should have picked up on that before it got here. Because you applied for a special permit, we're having a public hearing, we have to go forward with that and vote it up or down. Unless you withdraw your application, then we can return it to the city clerk, suggest to the city clerk to return your money or use that money to apply for a variance. Because the $100 is not for the permit, it's for the application fee. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't know. They told me to get a permit, you need to pay $100, so that's what I did.
Yeah, and I apologize, but this is happening too much. They're sending things to this committee that doesn't belong here, that doesn't belong before the city council. And it's, we're trying to work on it and trying to get a way better to weed this out. But, you know, this is the second time we've had a non-conforming use that isn't even close to a non-conforming use issue. And nothing you've done wrong, okay? You're just trying to do the right thing. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to the next, I see Councilor Israel Rivera has joined us. First of all, thank you for joining. And I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of wanted to echo the sentiment of Councilman McGivern and wanted to thank him for bringing that up, because I was going to kind of say, like, he's only here because they told him this is what he had to do. And that's unfortunate that, like, you're going through a process unnecessarily, and that we're working on that, and that we apologize. Thank you.
Thank you. Because we did open a public hearing, I am going to read these, and these folks did take the time to submit comment. I'm going to read them into the record, and then there's one other person on Zoom. Even though it doesn't feel like I should do this, but I should, right? What would you do? Okay. Okay. Do you want to, do you want to withdraw your application? Is that something that you would rather do versus us having to vote it up or down?
Actually, they told me I gotta stop building what, I mean,
Right.
it's already,
Right.
it's already
Build
built.
without a permit.
Right,
Just that I need the roof, the shingles.
right. And unfortunately, you can't build without a permit.
That's why I stopped. I'm not building.
Right, right. And unfortunately, this is not a special permit that we can issue. So we wanted to give you the option to withdraw the application, and we can send that over to the city clerk's office, and they would refer that to the Board of Appeals for you to request a zoning variance. If that's the case, I can't guarantee what the Board of Appeals would do or vote on, but that's an option.
Could I just add?
Sure, Councilor Bacon?
And if you want to go that route, we would ask the clerk to reimburse you for the permit fee, so that if there is a fee for the variance, you could use it there. So you wouldn't have to pay double or twice.
Okay, yeah, I guess we'll do that then. Yeah.
Okay. So the applicant's going to withdraw their application. And for those purposes, like,
So if we're hearing that the applicant wishes to withdraw his application to then seek the variance, we can accept the request of the applicant to withdraw the application and refer the application back to the clerk, I believe. Counselor McGivern, right?
I believe so, yeah.
okay,
So that would be my motion.
okay,
To close the public hearing because it's not the proper venue first. And then, since the applicant is withdrawing his special permit application, to send it back to the clerk to direct it to the Board of Appeals.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. So that's the path that we'll have to take. I'll update the full city council at our next council meeting, but we'll get this communicated to the city clerk's office. But it's the zoning board of appeals board that you would need to request a variance from. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Sorry. Thank you.
Good luck. And again, good luck to you, and we're sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Okie doke. Moving on, motion to take item 3 off the table and open the public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. So the special permit application for Andre Gamble for a special permit for a third floor dwelling at 3941 Portland Street. That's under 7.2.9. Hello, Andre, Mr. Gamble. Come on in. So, same thing as before. This is a public hearing. We are excited to hear from you about what your plan is. So I'll let you have that opportunity. Then I'll open it up to counselors to make it known their questions, and then anyone from the public. That's the last piece. So with that, if you could just say your name and address into the record, please.
Andre Gamble, 41 Portland Street, here in Holyoke. I bought the house roughly about 3 years ago, and what I'm trying to do currently, I noticed there we had an attic that was vacant, and pretty much right now, what's got me here is that I wanted to utilize the space that's available up there. And I talked around. I spoke to a city councilor. I spoke to I think the grounds individual. I think it was. I forget her name. And she pointed me in the direction of this right here, the special permit. So here I am.
Great.
That's what brings me in.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to stop and see if any city councilors on the committee want to start with any questions. I might have some, but I'm going to be polite. Okay, I'll go first. So for this application, this is definitely something that we can approve this kind of use. My main question is about parking. with the city ordinances, do you anticipate how many parking spaces, off-street parking spaces, you're going to have for this property?
Currently, right now, there's about 4 empty spots in front of the house, in front of 41. That's sharing with 41 Portland Street, and this is 41, 43, and 45. And there's only one vehicle at the moment that parks there because they have their own driveway that they access and that they use. And then there's 2 vehicles that can more vehicles than that, but if there's 2 vehicles that can actually park in the back portion of the house of 41 or 3941 Portland Street, also with a number of vehicles along the upcoming the ramp of the driveway. So I don't see it being an issue at all.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. And I know that initially we did not have the architecture materials, but we do now, so that's great because we wouldn't be able to vote on it if we didn't. So
I spoke to it, and this is my first home. So here I am.
Totally understand.
I'm just taking all the pointers from everybody. Hey, listen, go here, go here. Just tell me what I have to do, and I'll do it. Whatever hoops I have to jump through, that's exactly what I'll do.
It's my first time on the city council, so I feel the same way sometimes.
Oh, you're good.
All right. I'm going to pause there and see if any counselors have any questions or feedback. Councilor Reagan?
So, thank you. I would just like to go over what planning gave us for feedback on this.
Absolutely.
Just so we have it in the record in the public hearing, and in terms of particularly the parking, because I believe we have to be sure that if we do approve this, we're not creating a problem in the neighborhood. That it's more of a good for the neighborhood than negative.
Yep.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure we're covering what feedback we got on that. This is the document, the July 7th, is that the one?
Yeah, and that's the one that mentions we didn't have the architectural
Correct.
yet, but yeah, no
I
other,
didn't see another one, but I wanted
Right.
to make sure I didn't miss it.
correct.
Okay.
And Jeffrey can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Okay.
Madam Chair, the document with the departmental notice has a second paper that is updates since Friday.
so,
Is it clipped to this
Yeah, it's
larger
stapled to the
packet?
same paper.
Number 3?
No, it was on top of number 2. There's a departmental info
Oh, okay.
page
Okay.
that covers all 3 public hearings.
Yes, and that's the one we've been looking at. Okay. All right, thank you.
I'm not seeing, oh wait, hold on, sorry. I see Councilor Rivera's hand is up. You're still on mute. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry. No, thank you. So, aside from the parking, I guess for me, for a community right now that is struggling with residential property, or at least people being able to find apartments, I think, in my mind, it kind of makes sense for people that are kind of being resourceful with some of the spaces that they have in their homes to try to, at the same time, bring in another side of income, but also provide more space for people in the community that are looking for possible places of residence within the limits of and the boundaries of ordinances and obviously policies that we have in place. But at the end of the day, I appreciate that, and I want to thank you, Mr. Gamble.
Thank you.
So just to follow up.
Counselor Vacant?
So, and I'm appreciative certainly of adding, rental units in the neighborhood, but I do think, per the request from planning, that we should see at least where those parking spaces would be on the plan. That the people that would be living there could actually use.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think, just to make it complete, so that we've done our due diligence relative, because if then the ward counselor starts getting calls that people can't park,
Okay.
we want to have vetted that.
Yeah, so at least just to see, does this property allow the amount of parking spaces for that unit?
Yes, yes, and really not to try to put any roadblocks on what you're trying to do, but this is probably the second largest complaint we get in the city after speeding is lack of parking. So we just speaking for, as a member of the committee, that I would just like to make sure that's there.
Okay, so what would you guys need from me?
So if I may, the city's zoning ordinances require a certain amount of parking spots per residential unit.
Okay.
I am not entirely familiar. I think it's two.
The building
Thank you.
commissioner's looking for a drawing that would show him where they are. And, that the size for a parking space and where they would be for this proposed unit.
Okay.
Yeah, it says, although the architect refers to the 2 additional parking spaces required, they have not provided a drawing that I have seen with dimensions indicating that they have the room for the additional spaces.
Okay.
That's the feedback there from the building department.
Okay, so pretty much that's pretty much all they're missing. You guys want to see on top of what you guys already seen.
That's all I see.
Okay. Okay.
That's the main feedback. Counselor Bartley? It's not on, sorry.
Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I've just confirmed with Joe, and I apologize for being late. So under 7.2.9 of our ordinances, this allows you to do this by way of a special permit. So this is something that a section of the law that you should read over and be very familiar with. So I just want you to have your architect or you review it, and if you don't
Okay.
have it, then we'll send you a copy.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So it says it in pretty plain language, and it's not overly complicated. There's really 3 issues. One, your architect's got to prepare a plan. Now, we have the building commissioners saying that, well, based upon what the architect wrote in his letter, though we don't have a plan, one's forthcoming.
right.
But we don't have a plan.
No, not yet.
Okay, so I don't see a
Right.
plan. So that's one. I see the architect, I see I don't see it clearly on here myself. So that's number 1. 2 is the parcel of land's got to be 6,000 square feet or more. I think yours makes it
Correct.
by 200 feet.
Correct.
But it makes it. So there you go.
Correct.
So check that box.
Okay.
So that's good news.
Okay.
The 2 additional off-street parking spaces, is that something? Just explain to me how it's going to be laid out.
So there's 2 vehicles that access the rear of the home, the whole complex itself, and then there's 2 actually additional vehicles that can be placed in there. So a total of 4 vehicles can be placed in that driveway, and then along with the next door neighbors, there's the front, there's the on-street parking, which can, I believe it's about 4 parking spaces.
Well,
that's available to.
And that's great, but so I just want to focus on the ordinance. The ordinance
Okay.
says you need to provide 2 additional off-street, and you're relaying to me that you can provide that in your lot.
Yes, we can. Yeah,
All right, so
yes.
that's very positive. And then the last thing is whether or not this is detrimental or positive to the neighborhood. Now, I'm of the opinion that when somebody wants to invest in a city, that I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I've always taken my votes that way. And what you're saying to us is
Right.
that you want to invest in your house and you want to invest in the city.
Correct.
Okay?
I'm born and raised here in Holyoke.
No, your name's well known. So the gambling is well known. So
I hope in a good way.
in a very good way.
Good.
And so with that, what is your timeline in terms of construction, in terms of financing?
So currently, right now, we're just at this phase right now. This is all new to me. So I'm taking all the necessary steps to get to that point where we can set up the architect, have the money for funding to fund this project. But again, we can't do anything until we know that, okay, we get this approved. Now the next step, get the architect, have the drawing laid out, and then the builders come into play. So right now, I'm just at this point where we need the zoning change. Other than that, we're at a standstill. We can't do anything. There's nothing we can be done upstairs. I can't pay an architect for something that can't be done upstairs. So I just need the approvals for this, so then I can take it back to the architect. Hey, listen, we got the approval. Let's start the whole drawings, get the drawings done.
Well, so Mr. Gamble, so what I'm saying
Yep,
is that
yes.
I'm more inclined to support it now and move
Yes.
this along now
Okay.
than not, because of what the building commissioner said
Yes.
and what you've relayed to me relative to the parking,
Yes.
and what I said to you in terms of my opinion about individuals and companies that are willing to invest in the city in economic times that maybe aren't the best. So I would want to, and then certainly we're going to need to hear from abutters relative to this. And you said you own this under your, I didn't look up the property deed, but you own it under your name, or is it an LLC, or what?
This is straight under my name, yes.
Your name. And
Yep.
do you reside on the premises?
Yes, I do.
You do.
Yes.
Okay.
I live on the top floor. I care for my mother who lives on the first floor, which is handicapped. So, yeah.
And you've owned it since when? 3 years?
Going on 3 years in November, correct.
Okay, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to check on Zoom. No. So I'm open, I don't know if others are, but I'm open to voting on this do you think it's realistic that you can get more information about the parking situation by our next meeting?
Absolutely.
Our next meeting is August 1st.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All you have to do is point me in the right direction. I'll get whatever it is that you guys need.
So I just want to make sure.
you gotta hear from the
we're
public, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hands.
No, for sure. Thank you both. Did you have something, Councilor McGivern?
Just real quick, because I think Andre, Mr. Gamble asked a couple good questions. But parking is important to what we're doing. But parking, we're not the body that oversees parking. That's the building department, and certainly the issue to get a building permit is going to be that you get this special permit and you show them the plans.
Okay.
What we are doing is you're zoned R2, and I'm guessing, kind of familiar with Portland, there's a number of two-family houses on the street.
Correct.
Okay? There aren't really that many or any, if I know of, three-family houses. So you're asking to make your house into three-family in an R2, which is for two-family. That's okay, but we're about to have a public hearing that checks what your neighbors think about that.
Correct.
So I think the parking is important to them.
Correct.
The rest, everything else you presented is top shelf. Looks like you have a great architect and you know what you're doing. And we certainly want that to happen, but we want to make sure you walk out of here with the correct information.
Okay.
And then you can face that building department. They're tough.
Yeah. I'll try to make it as easy as possible for them. If I can get that drawn out for them in the best possible way with pictures and everything else along with it, I definitely do that. So
Great.
whatever it is that you guys need in the building, inspectors need,
Thank you.
get it done. So
Thank you very much. So this is a public hearing, as my colleagues reminded me. I do see a hand on Zoom, and I'm also going to check and see if there's anyone in the room present tonight that is here specifically for this public hearing. All right. And on Zoom, I have Nathan Chung with his hand up. Nathan, can you state your name and address for the record? Oh no. He just disappeared. Oh wait, did he go to panelist? Zoom, man. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was the right button. Can you hear me?
You're good.
Yeah, thank you. Nathan Chung, 9 Thru Avenue, apartment 4A. I think the applicant is doing a very interesting project, and it's good to hear that he has a multi-generational living situation. Just wanna, add to the parking thing. I know that can be sometimes a really big challenge for smaller buildings or smaller lots. So it seems like Andre Gamble, Mr. Gamble is able to do this with the zoning 7.2.9, and in 7.2.9, the item 3, although there is a parking requirement, two spaces per unit, there is a special exception that the city council may give. You can actually reduce the requirement rather than 6 total for the 3 dwellings on the lot. You can make it 5. You can reduce it to 5 based on different factors. But the one factor to consider, I don't know what the proposed size of the third units are gonna be, but if it's, if the units are gonna be smaller, or some of the units are gonna be smaller, requiring a smaller number of families to live in it, typically it might be a 1-car family, or maybe they don't have a car. So, I mean, the two spaces per dwelling is sort of a big rule of thumb, which isn't always a very flexible and appropriate requirement for smaller dwellings. So that's one factor for the city council to consider, in my opinion. And it sounds like a very interesting project. And I mean, the architecture plan and everything, the fact that Mr. Gamble went through all these processes and appeared before the city council, I'm very appreciative of his efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public or on Zoom? Okay.
Then I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
So I would like to offer a motion to grant the special permit with the condition, unless the applicant wishes to change his position that he has the space for 2, that we would put the condition that he will meet the building department's requirement for the 2 spaces.
Yes.
In anticipation, you probably think they'll be needed.
Yeah.
I'm understanding.
Yeah, okay. So that you guys will just need that by the August 1st meeting, correct?
Well, it
Before
would just
that?
have to happen before they give you the building permit,
Yeah.
Okay.
right?
It would help, I think it would help us if we knew if it was possible, like,
Okay.
if we did need to grant an exemption of the 2 parking spots, but we would have to know that in advance,
We
like,
have to know that now.
right.
Yeah.
I'm also just making sure that, like,
My mom doesn't drive, so she's handicapped. so
right,
that's the-
right.
Right.
It's a limited, 2
Yeah.
parking spots right there. So
I mean, I guess, yeah, it's just good to know, I think, before we vote on it, that it's possible.
Right. So I just wanted to clarify that you thought you needed 2 and you have 2, that you still want to have 2,
okay, let me.
right?
See
I
if
mean,
I'm-
isn't that the question?
I'm hearing this right.
But we closed the public hearing, so.
Counselor
we have to
Bartley?
reopen it.
Chair, Linda, I'm not really understanding your question. So what Mr. Gamble said was that what Mr. Gamble said that there are 4 off-street parking spaces. That's what I heard him say.
Correct.
Okay, so is that not sufficient?
It is. I just was trying to validate that he wants to stay with that plan because some information came forth that maybe there could be an exception for it to be less.
Well,
But that was all.
I guess what I'm.
But
I
I
guess
may have been a little late with the question.
I mean, the way I read this is that you're supposed to have probably 2 for each unit. So I guess the question then becomes, and we did close the public hearing, which
Right.
I kind of wish
I mean,
we
we
had.
can discuss.
Yeah, I'm just, the question becomes, and I know the first floor occupant doesn't drive, but the question becomes,
In the future.
for me, does this special permit continue when Mr. Gamble sells the property? I would think it would, unless we limit it to the current applicant, which I'm not inclined to do. But the problem is that you're kind of stuck with 4 parking spaces in a 3-unit property when it
Right.
really should be 6. Now,
Right. And thank you. I was just simply validating that that is what you've requested and that is what you'll present, and that's what we're voting on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and,
Right. Other thoughts? Councilor McGivern?
Just I would speak in favor of granting the special permit. It would be helpful by our August meeting to have the dimensions or the parking, correctly lined out, although it's not our purview. It's the building department. Eventually will say yes or no. The irony of why I'm in favor of, not the irony, but the reasons I'm in favor of it is because it's a reasonable proposal, makes sense. I don't think every piece of property that's two-family wants to be three-family, but if this one works, then that's understandable, and it's why we have this ordinance and this special permit. The irony of parking is, Google this. You got more parking lots around your neighborhood than anybody does, because something known as Holyoke Medical Center
the medical
doesn't
center.
build a parking deck.
Yeah.
They just keep tearing down houses.
Yes, they do.
And they creep
Yes.
closer and closer
That's
to these
exactly what they do.
residential neighborhoods.
Correct.
Because they won't spend the money on a parking deck.
Yeah.
And it's to me, that's,
Yeah.
I'll stop there because I usually get in trouble when I say too much. But Mr. Gamble, it's reasonable. I hope it works. I hope the building department works with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Councilor Bartley?
and this, I take it that this is the architectural rendering?
Yes.
Okay, this font is probably 3. I mean, it's not legible.
I didn't.
I mean, unless I got,
it's
Superman.
Very small. Yes.
well, I mean, it doesn't cut it for me.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll vote for this tonight, but this is insufficient.
Okay.
So, can Mr. Villette, no, it's not, it's Villette Apartments. Who's your architect?
I forget his name. I have his information in my phone.
Okay, can Mr. and Mrs. Architect get us a legible rendering?
Lasse Aspelin.
I can definitely reach out to him, and I just
Yeah, I mean,
know
this-
that.
Yeah.
In the PDF, for what it's worth, the
Pretty tough.
PDF,
Okay.
it gets bigger. Yeah,
On our
right,
computers.
right. Okay. Anything else from counselors? So we had a motion
Okay.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. As I mentioned, our next full city council meeting is Tuesday, August 1st.
August 1st.
So we'd love to have that information before then.
Perfect.
And we really appreciate you coming in, taking the time, and for your
course.
investments.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I'll see you then.
Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Make a motion to take 4 off the table?
Is there a second? Great. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And
So moved.
motion to open the public hearing?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So the item 4 is a special permit application for Salmar Realty LLC. Peter Martins for a special permit for the proposed coffee shop drive-through restaurant at South Street Plaza, a portion of 209 South Street. And we have had additional information. The applicant's representative, Alexandra Cicchetti, she has actually asked us to continue this hearing to the next DGR meeting. And I know we need to pick a date before we can do such a thing. So, looking at August, there were a couple Wednesdays I was looking at. August 16th.
I'm not available that week.
Okay, no problem. What about the week after that?
23rd?
That would be the 23rd.
That's fine. We
23rd?
I think that's okay for me.
Okay. Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
6:30?
Yep. 6:30 Wednesday, August 23rd. We can continue. So I'm entertaining.
So I'll make a motion
okay.
that we continue this
Just
public.
a Point of order, you still have to have public
Comment?
comment. You still have to.
If anybody showed up.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Good reminder.
Let's see. So I'm going to pause and see if anyone in the audience this evening is in attendance for the public hearing, item number 4 for this project on South Street. Seeing none. Anyone online? Oh, hold on. I see there's someone with their hand up. Alex Diaz, did you mean to put your hand up? Maybe not. It's now not up.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. I'm thinking maybe that was not intended, but I'm gonna pause. Okay. I think we're good.
So not hearing a comment, I'll renew my motion to,
Councilor Bartley?
Was there a reason this is, that they're not, that we scheduled this today and we're not ready today? What's
Yep.
our reason?
That's should be in our emails.
knew it at one point.
Jeffrey, there was an email communication. Now I'm trying to separate attachment. Is the communication in our packet, Jeffrey?
You know, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure, because it was going to be continued.
Okay.
It's my understanding there are some materials that aren't completely ready for for planning to be able to give a thorough review.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think I saw, let me just ask a couple more questions, Joe.
Yeah.
Hold on. It's just-
Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, I guess through the chair to Jeff. So Jeff, with this application, and I think most of us know what's being proposed here, and generally supportive. But are we going to hear from the property owners about the right to possess? Are we going to hear from the applicant about the entrance and access and egress to the property? Are we going to hear from them relative to the, especially hear from the city engineer relative to that intersection at the bottom of Parento? I pointed that intersection out directly to the DPW superintendent on site. I pointed out directly to the city engineer on site, trying to elicit some feedback. I've received none so far, but I want the public to be aware and this board to be aware that intersection is ripe for disaster. And while, again, I'm very supportive of businesses all the time and investment all the time, this particular location is, and what I'm thinking is going to be the chain that's going to be there. I think it's going to generate a lot of traffic, and that's positive. But I think we're going to need to hear something from the city officials relative to that particular intersection at the bottom of South Street. So I'm hopeful that the applicant will be ready with a traffic study, and that the city's DPW superintendent and city engineer will have some relevant feedback for us, so to be prepared for that, because I'm certainly going to need to hear from them relative to this. So just to summarize, the traffic situation at the bottom of Parento, Maple High South, all that is, I think, problematic. Second of all, I certainly would want to see something from the owners of the South Street Shopping Plaza that allows them to develop that site. I'd want to see, I guess it would be a lease, or if they're selling off a portion of that parcel, I don't know. But I'd want to see that, Jeff, before I take any kind of vote. Thank you.
So I just want to read into the record what was provided to us. I lost the paper, but it's been provided to us, and In an email from Jeff Burkott, Jeffrey spoke with Jeff and he said that they have asked OPED to hold off on publicizing for the site plan renewal hearing, which they had originally planned to schedule for July 25th. The planning board does prepare a letter under section for DGR's review. They are planning to discuss it, but the applicant asked they would like to continue this submission until they are able to provide the architectural drawings and the traffic study to incorporate a full submission and allow for an easier administrative review. By the time we got this communication, we had already scheduled the public hearing, which is good because we're following the timeline there, but they requested a hearing for July 25th. That may be delayed. So, yeah, I don't think anyone on this committee would want to vote in favor of a permit without having all of that information. So that right there kind of explains it. Does anyone have any other comments or questions? Okie doke.
So I will offer a motion to continue the public hearing to August 23rd at 6:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you all.
Motion take, if you want, are we still going in order?
Yep.
Motion take 5 on the table.
Second. Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so item number 5 was filed by myself, ordered that the City Council invite representatives of the newly established High Street Business Association to discuss their efforts, challenges, priorities, and ways that the city can support their future initiatives. And we have several folks here this evening, and so we really appreciate all of you being here. What I'd like to do is I believe there's a slide deck presentation. We're also joined this evening by the mayor, the superintendent of the DPW, Carl. Thank you for being here, Carl. And on Zoom, we've invited Chief Pratt is here with us this evening, which we really appreciate. And so I would like to invite folks from the committee that are here this evening. And Jeffrey, do you have the slide deck that you're gonna pull up? Or is that how we're, okay. Have a seat wherever. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And just a reminder, if the green light's not on, no one can hear you at home. We can hear you, but they can't hear you. Great. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, but just for some background, I am a member of this committee, or this association, wearing a couple, I have my actual offices on High Street, but I'm also obviously a city councilor. And we just, after discussions, some meetings, we wanted to invite folks in and make sure that we had representatives from the city, in addition to the city council, obviously. So with that, if I can make sure that you guys say your name and your address into the public record, that would be great. And then I'll let you take it from here, and then we'll pause and open it up for questions. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you, councilors. My name is Jordan Har. I'm the executive director of the Greater Holyoke Chamber. I live at 31 Longwood Avenue, floor 2 here in Holyoke.
And my name is Vadim Tolchinsky. I'm with Urbanist Development, and my office address is at 287 High Street.
Thank you. Take it away.
Thank you. Can we request that they hit the slideshow?
Yeah, can you put it in slideshow view?
I would just like to give a brief background that the High Street Business Association has, we've been meeting regularly since the winter, I would say about December. Our first kickoff meeting, we had about 65 businesses and community members, specifically who work either on High Street or in the surrounding areas. We've been meeting monthly since then. So this presentation here today is collective thoughts, concerns, and actions that we feel need to be taken to aid in making Holyoke Holyoke's downtown specifically, a vibrant place for not only its residents, but for folks coming into the city. And so these are our urgent needs and how we feel that the city can help us in that. Vadim, I'm not sure if you'd like to add anything.
No, you're doing great.
You can go to the next slide. You guys can let them know when to go to the next slide.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So again, the High Street Business Association brings together businesses and building owners on High Street. We do have folks who are in the surrounding areas of High Street who do participate because they have a strong community influence. And it's to network, to promote commerce, and to tackle common challenges.
Next slide, please.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So many of us, we're on High Street as we speak. I've been working on High Street for almost 10 years myself, and we all know that a vibrant downtown attracts people to live in the area. It drives tax revenue for the city from successful restaurants and businesses, and it creates novel arts, culture, and social infrastructure. So the picture that was shown is, thank you, Jeffrey, is through our meetings, we've been able to use artificial intelligence to create what a vibrant High Street has the potential to look like. Through its markets, we have a downtown farmers market, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, we have longstanding businesses and restaurants that can aid and help to bring a vibrant downtown. Especially we have such a strong arm on marketing the city through tourism, through the Explore Holyoke website, and we need to have High Street and our downtown to be the center of that appeal. And at the moment, it's lacking in some areas. Jeffrey, you may proceed. Thank you.
So we're all gathered here because we love Holyoke, we love High Street, we believe in its success, we want it to be the best that it possibly can be, but I think we can all acknowledge that it has some challenges that we are looking for all of us to work together to overcome. First point, please. So the first that we want to talk about is the number one issue that comes up over and over when we talk to local businesses, local residents, and people coming in from outside, which is simply crime. So we have, first and foremost, there unfortunately is rampant and open sales of drugs on the city, particularly on High Street. This is something that anybody who walks down the street can notice. It's done in the open, it's done blatantly, and it's done without any fear of any repercussion. Next point, please. Same with prostitution. It's visible. No one can avoid it if you walk down the street, High Street, surrounding streets. And this creates an air of not feeling safe, not feeling welcome, and it drives away much needed business that the businesses need to thrive on High Street, and it makes it an even more challenging environment to operate a business or even just to reside on High Street. Next point, please. And lastly on this point is panhandling. There are people walking up and down the street, both High Street, Maple Street, and we're focused here on High Street, but it happens all over the city, particularly at entry points and exit points to the city. That creates a really bad impression for our beloved city that drives away foot traffic, drives away visitors, and makes it really, really difficult to operate a business. Next slide, please. So I wanted to bring this map up because it's very open and obvious where these issues are. I just wanted to put a location to it because I didn't want to dance around it, and I think all of us could probably point to them, but I'm going to point them out here. First point, please. So the first intersection is at Cabot and High Street. Anyone walking through there through the middle of the day, they're going to see drug sales, they're going to see panhandlers, they're going to see people passed out on the sidewalks. They're going to see people buying drugs, going behind the alley behind Sam's, using drugs, coming out, begging for change. The next point is right around where Division Street meets High Street. Again, it's an open air drug market. People are very obviously selling drugs. They're panhandling, they're harassing pretty aggressively people as they walk by. It creates an incredibly hostile business environment for anybody who's trying to run in and get a sandwich or anything like that. Lastly, on Upper High Street, we've noticed a significant uptick of violence. There have been shootings, stabbings, and it seems to be, it's tending to seem to be more concentrated up in that particular area. Last point on the slide, please. And then on Maple Street, there's what we call the panhandling gauntlet, which is for anybody trying to drive outside of the High Street, particularly during rush hour, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., every single intersection, that person is getting harassed for money. Any red light they're going to get stopped at. It's pretty unpleasant. Next slide, please.
So we all know, driving down High Street, there's an overabundance of trash, which has a lot to do with the lack of trash cans. For those of you who don't know, the chamber is located at 177 High Street, which is next to Brennan's, a couple doors down from La Isla, the former Fernandez family restaurant. And there's a trash can at the corner of Hamden and High. The next trash can is not until you get in front of Crave, which is right across from here, City Hall. So as folks come into our city, it drives away both visitors and residents through, because it looks neglected. We have an overabundance of abandoned buildings, trash carries up there. We are all aware of that there's an ordinance, Ordinance 74-2, which does allow, which enforces the business and property owner, both commercial and resident, to take care of their trash. However, when there are fentanyl caps, there's needles, human feces, it's an unfair burden to put on to our businesses and our community members to take this on because it's unsafe and it's unsanitary, and we just need more trash cans. We've been asking since I've been the director 2.5 years, I've been asking for more trash cans, and there's no, we keep getting pushed down. Carl, this has nothing to do with you. You just walked in, so this is your predecessor. So I'm meeting you probably for the second time today. So, Jeffrey, if you could advance, please. And again, there's almost no trash cans. So we have several businesses who have businesses on High Street today. My friends Jeffrey and Joseph, who are the owners of Paper City Fabrics, and Priscilla Rivera, who is the owner of City Sports. We also have Damien and Anthony, Tony Whitman of the Unicorn and that block. However, the block on High Street between Appleton and Suffolk is a very concentrated trash area and drug use area. So a lot of the trash that both Jeffrey, Joseph, and Priscilla are all picking up is human feces, needles, fentanyl caps. I have a fentanyl cap sitting in the foyer of the chamber because it's a mess. And 22 News just came out with a news article about how this is becoming a recurring theme for Holyoke, and we just need to start taking action steps because we have a number of businesses who are willing to adopt trash cans, if you will, but we also need safe mechanisms for them to be able to dispose of the trash, especially when there's needles and other items in the trash that can cause bodily harm to our business and property owners here in the city. And again, there's just dangerous waste. So I kind of covered all the points in my speech, but this is a recurring theme, and it's heavily concentrated on High Street.
So first and foremost, we want to thank everybody for listening to us, the city councilors, the mayor, the head of the DPW. Thank you so much for coming. I know the head of the police is on Zoom. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. We're here to try to find some solutions, And we have some suggestions, but ultimately this is going to be a partnership that we're looking to establish to try to make life better for everybody. The first one that we want to propose is just simply patrolling High Street on foot by police. We understand that there's constrained resources. We're all dealing with constrained resources, you know, us as the business community, just as much as anyone. And right now, there's no police presence whatsoever on High Street. I don't think anybody in this room can remember a time when they saw, you know, someone who was walking down High Street who was not specifically there for parking enforcement. Again, all of these crimes are being committed brazenly out in the open with absolutely no fear of repercussion. And we think just having some sort of physical, visible presence would drastically change the nature of it. You know, it wouldn't solve it overnight, certainly, but, you know, hotspot policing has done wonders for cities like New York City and others, so we can't imagine that, you know, it wouldn't do something similar here. Something else that we wanted to put forward was and I believe the city is already working on this, so I just want to commend the police department for this. There's a program that's perhaps not promoted enough that there exists a public-private partnership between the police for anybody with private cameras can register for the police to be able to tap into them. We want to encourage this. We want to volunteer our own buildings and security cameras. So we would love for this to be more advertised and really taken advantage of.
We also want to ask for help to support a bid formation, and BID is an acronym for Business Improvement District, which would be registered by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that requires a specific area. For example, we could say High Street from Appleton to Lyman, and that would become the Business Improvement District, where a percentage of the property owners and the business owners would agree to that. A tax would be added to their taxes, an additional tax, and that money would be used to help with a lot of this maintenance, whether it be trash removal, graffiti removal, adding beautification like lights or plants to just make the downtown look vibrant. And then we would also seek to fill in for trash collection while a bid is set up, because again, there's very few of us who are willing to take this on. We're here to share what our concerns are, but we're also here to also help to create solutions so that we can all work together as a community to make downtown have a vibrant downtown, which Holyoke does deserve. We should not be going to Springfield, to East Hampton, South Hadley, Northampton to be spending our discretionary funds. We should be able to utilize those here in our city because Holyoke has all the resources that we need to bring that forward.
And again, we just want to stress the nature of the partnership that we're looking to establish. Just as one example, the High Street Business Association is hosting, with the help of Priscilla of City Sports and others, a trash cleanup this upcoming Saturday at 10 a.m. for anybody at home who wants to join. It's going to kick off at 10 a.m. at the City Sports Bar. July 15th, and I believe there's already 35 people signed up. We're going to walk the full length of High Street in both directions, picking up trash. But, you know, that's something that we're happy to work on, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't have to get to that point.
Yeah, we need help from the city, and we need to have accountability being taken. You know, it's almost as though a blind eye is being turned, and it's been being turned for so long that it has snowballed out of control. I've been working on High Street for almost 10 years, and I've never seen it in the state that it's been. I think maybe the first 2 years, so this would be 2013, more or less, was probably one of the last times that we saw police patrolling High Street. And it definitely made a difference. You know, Holyoke has had years in the recent past where there hasn't been a single homicide. But now we're seeing, you know, up to 10 overdoses on High Street within a matter of days. And so this problem is getting out of control. I have, as the chamber director, I have businesses coming to me sharing their concerns that they have to go into their savings to help pay their business expenses because they're not getting enough business into their property, into their storefronts because of these issues that we're seeing. People don't feel safe coming downtown. We have so many people who have invested hundreds and thousands of dollars into, because they see the vibrancy that Holyoke can have, but the city also needs to, we all need to work together for this, but we're lacking in a lot of areas, and we're asking for the city's help on this.
Thank you. Is that your presentation? Is that the last slide?
That's it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. That's all we got.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and we appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate everyone, all of the business owners that showed up this evening, community members. I want to invite the mayor and Carl, if you'd like to come into council chambers, because I know there was a lot of things that were discussed that might be under your purview, and I know there's a lot of things that you all are working on. We've had conversations about this, but I guess maybe I'll give you the chance to address some things, and then I'll open it up to counselors if they still have questions. Cool?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and councilors, and big thank you to Jordan at the Chamber of Commerce and the businesses that are here presenting tonight their frustration. I did bring forward Carl, who's our DPW director, the police chief's online to address the concerns and the plans we have at play to, share with the community. But before they take over, I do want to say that I'm very proud of the presentation that just came forward today. I need neighborhoods to be upset and get mad. I need neighborhoods to mobilize. I need businesses and residents and people to demand the kind of expectation they need in their community. To put, to rely on government to secure these problems is not necessarily the solution, although it's a big, major contributor to help de-escalate and confront these issues. These issues, since I've came in here post-pandemic, it's the number one problem. I know you mentioned speeding and and what was the other one? Parking. No, it's addiction, drugs, overdose, everything that I've been dealing with in this office as far as local government is concerned, no problem. Personalities, perspectives, we deal with it. It's what we do, we solve problems. But these problems with the overdose, drugs, and addiction is the one that I lose sleep over every single night. I just read in the paper this week that Massachusetts surpassed the number of overdoses that we've had from previous years. So overdose and drugs in Massachusetts it's not just unique here in the city of Holyoke. Because of our network of services, I know there's a level of frustration with the people that were in question, but understand also that these are people who are struggling also. And Holyoke, for as long as I've lived here and grew up here, has always been a community of compassion, much more progressive than so-called progressive communities in the Commonwealth, taking care of vulnerable populations. But nevertheless, at some point, the line has to be drawn. I've been drawing that line, doing a lot of kicking and screaming with every state department in the Commonwealth, issuing contracts to the local nonprofits and private property owners who like to maintain a business of poverty to some level. And so there's a lot of work happening there behind the scenes that I haven't gone out and spoke about publicly or anything, because that's just behind the scenes work that we're doing. But with that being said, on that front, I have a lot of good news to come forward with on the trash and recycling front that Carl is going to share. There's some good news that the chief is going to share, some things that we can't share, as frustrating as it is for me. And then there are other things that I'm sure the chief can share to offer a peace of mind so that you know that change is coming. But nevertheless, we are dealing with, our federal and state delegation got to understand that statewide problems require statewide solutions. Local government can't solve the problems of society when it comes to this drug and addiction problem. We need federal and state intervention. I do know that Governor Healy has been dealing with this a lot the last couple months or so. I've constantly communicate with her office with the epidemic that we're dealing with here in Massachusetts when it comes to fentanyl and drugs. So there is, housing is another problem. We got a lot of people, that's a whole nother conversation we can spend hours talking about that's contributing to this issue or the lack thereof, considering of housing. But nevertheless, there is this dumping ground that we have here in the city that if we can't achieve a better balance, if surrounding cities and towns are not going to do their part to take care of our most vulnerable people, and if the state's not going to help us close some of our housing gaps, we're drawing the line and we're going to step up some accountability efforts. But needless to say, those are some of the long-term things we're dealing with. But on the interim, on the short term, I'm going to pass it to, I don't know which one you want to, crime or trash? Because these are my two favorite subjects.
I know,
believe it or not.
I get it.
Which one you want to start with?
I'll have
Why don't we
Carl.
start with panhandling in the law department?
Okay,
So
Right,
crime,
because we've been talking about that for 10 years.
we hear
you
that.
want to do crime? Let's do crime.
Okay, we'll do crime first.
I don't want to talk about panhandling. with
Well,
us.
it's all tied into the whole situation. So I figure
Yeah.
let the chief chime in.
We're about to put up a memorial for Jose Reeve on Maple and Sargent Street, and that's a sad comment because no one stops that person from walking in the middle of the street and panhandling when you drive by.
I share that frustration too. I think the chief, we're on the call every morning, and I'm sure he's frustrated too. But I'll pass it to Chief Pratt and let him chime in.
Hello, Chief.
Hello. Thanks
All right.
for having me.
Great. Did you hear the?
Yeah, I heard the business owners' concerns, and I want to assure them that it doesn't go unnoticed. The police department. We have several things coming. Basically starting back when I started, we've been working to increase our numbers. I agree that I would like to see some foot patrols on High Street. Resources don't always allow it. I know that I also have, I get competing interests. I agree with the mayor that I think our drug problem is more important than our speeding problem, but I have to deal with both of them, so with the resources that I have. But I do have some collaborations that are going to bring more of exactly what the business owners are looking for. So I'm not worried about 1 and 2 on your list. We've already started in dealing with the prostitution, the drug sales, and the crime. We have a collaboration grant that we're going to be working with the Mass State Police, federal partners to deal with more of that. As far as the presence of the police department, we are getting there. I'm telling you, it's coming. Those walking beats are coming. We do, I heard about cameras. That's a great idea. We have always had that available. The businesses collaborate with us on that. I know the mayor has been working with me as well on our own city cameras and upgrading those. That's coming as well, which is going to help. The homelessness issue is something we're struggling with, but as people know and they talk, we do have a lot of collaborations going as far as addiction, homelessness, and trying to deal with that as well. We're putting resources into that as well. So we're hitting it on multiple fronts, and I sympathize with the business owners on High Street, and I can tell you that there is help on the way, and you're going to start to see it in relatively shortly here. As far as the panhandling goes, as we said, we've been talking about that for 10 years. I wish people would stop giving them money, because that would end it right there. It wouldn't be out there if there wasn't money being passed out the windows, but that's not gonna happen, so we just have to deal with that as best we can. It's a very delicate and tricky situation to deal with, and it's very challenging. A lot of these issues aren't just police or social issues, and they've been going on for quite some time. I'm more than willing to talk to, one other thing I just thought of as I was sitting here listening to the High Street Association. I kind of wish they had invited us to those meetings that started a while back, because I would have loved to have sent a representative or come myself. And then going forward, if you're going to have those meetings, I'd be more than happy to do that. Even if it's a Zoom situation or however you want to do it, or just passing on to us what your concerns are, so that we can try to address them as quickly as possible. Other than that,
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to pause there, and Councilor McGivern has his hand up.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It's a presentation we've heard before, I've heard before, when Doris Ranford was sitting there and Greater Holyoke Inc. Ann Burke was sitting there. And there has been changes over the years, but we have reverted back to some of the ills. But I want to give Mayor Garcia a lot of credit, not just for his words tonight, but we heard a lot of good things that you just heard now during our budget hearings with the chief. For the first time, we have, for a lot of reasons, a lot of it budget, a full complement of police officers. Which we don't like to talk about when we don't have a full complement, but Chief Pratt committed to a lot of street patrols as something we have not seen in a long time. And I agree, visibility is a big part of it. I didn't mean to get off on panhandlers, because we've exhausted that by so much. But Chief, I'm not asking you a question, but Jose Reeby should not be walking in the middle of the street. I don't care what laws say panhandling is legal, not in the middle of a street, not in the middle of traffic. And that's for his safety as much as it is for drivers who are going by. I work in Holyoke District Court, as you know, and there have been a number of arrests on prostitution, more than I've seen in a long time in recent weeks. You can trust Chief Pratt when he says that they are taking the efforts. I see it's a long, tedious task with the drug task force and the state agencies intervening with the police department, but there is success, needs to be more. Cabot Street, I drive by Cabot Street every day. There's a tent city in PVTA bus stop. I don't get, but I got to be careful, because I yell too much, Jordan, and they look at me like, what's wrong with McGivern tonight?
It's all good.
Your efforts are correct, and that's what we want. Those are the things we want is business owners, but customers to feel comfortable walking downtown. Trash is interesting. I don't know why, and Carl's new, so you already said that. He's going to have to, decide what the Board of Public Works did years ago with taking the trash receptacles away. We need them. But trash is a bigger issue than litter. Downtown Holyoke is a wind tunnel. And we've got the studies to prove it, that if the building department and the health department doesn't enforce all the apartment buildings north and west of here and keep their receptacles, their trash bins locked and closed, whenever there's trash overflowing, gets into the alleyways, the wind brings it down here. And that's a bigger problem than just High Street. It compounds the problem on High Street, but making Holyoke green means we need a building department and a health department going after the apartment landlords and locking up those bins and making sure when tenants come down to throw their trash, it's only tenants. And then we can talk about cameras and all the illegal dumpings in the alleyways, which frustrates every ward councilor that has an alleyway in their ward, because going after the owners of the property to tell them there's tires in their alleyway, they didn't put the tires there. Somebody from somewhere put it there. Our biggest problem, and I agree with Mayor Garcia, is the state's got to recognize that Holyoke, it's not just Holyoke, it's Springfield, it's Lowell, it's Worcester, it's Lawrence.
More so.
But we're small. So when they dump homes on us, Oak Street, from 188 Oak Street, around the corner to Sargent, all the ways up to River Valley, is a family shelter run by CHD. There's been drug deals in the back of a family shelter. CHD didn't say a word about it to anybody. They just said, yeah, we kind of understand what's going on there. There was a raid, and there was a good raid, because I give credit to the police department on that one. There's been 2 raids now, but that's kind of, curtailed itself. But the good news, and I think Chief Pratt and the mayor, I thank both of them, is the budget is now about to support exactly what I think you're looking for. We still need to do better. And the parking, we got the advisory committee coming. You didn't talk about that, Josh.
Well,
Gordon's actually the chair.
On the parking front, they're having their kickoff meeting. They just secured a contract with a consultant who's going to have their kickoff meeting, I believe, tomorrow. Jordan and Councilor Bartley are both on that committee, so we should be having results from that, hopefully next 6 months or so.
Yes, we spent all last summer coming up with an RFP. We interviewed 7 firms with the help of Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and we've happily selected McMahon, who has done work in the city before, and they're based out of Westfield. So, yes, as Mayor Garcia mentioned, tomorrow's our meet and greet with the McMahon firm.
I hope we all agree we need to return hourly parking to Dwight Street. Now, I'm told you can go in there and use your app and stay there for hourly parking by paying for it. Drive down to Front Street, look at the front of the entrance. Where does it tell anybody they can do that?
Oh, it's confusing.
It's confusing. I'm not even sure if I want to go in the garage.
Downtown parking
Never mind.
management is a mess. It's confusing. Yeah.
But those are the areas where there's room for improvement. And I think, I can only speak for myself, but I think this body, and I'm sure the full city council agrees with you. There was one request, the partnership part, what can the city council do to help that? I'm not too sure if I understood. Other than the city provides the services that we're talking about.
That's what we're here. That's what we're here for, is to find solutions. A lot of this is going to be in partnership with the police chief, whom I have to apologize to, because he's absolutely right. We would love to have him show up to some of the meetings, just check in with us once in a while. We would love to work with him. So thank you so much for offering that. That will absolutely be accepted on our part. So a lot of that, and I want to give the DPW a chance to speak as well. But I think that there's lots of ways for us to overlap. One is, for example, you mentioned the illegal dumping of tires and particularly mattresses in the alleyways. If we put up cameras and we give those to the police, and we're able to record, let's say, for example, license plates of people doing it in real time, if the police are willing to follow up on those, that would be a great way to partner, for just as one example. We're also willing to do our part to pick up the trash that Jordan mentioned. If it's wind-blown trash or something like that, I think that's perfectly reasonable, and we're happy to pick up coffee cups all day. The issue comes when we're talking about human feces, we're talking about needles, we're talking about things that are outside of our comfort zone. So for something like that, we would love to look to the city to help us with, first on the prevention of that happening in the first place, but when it does happen, to provide a mechanism either for us to do it safely or for the city to put together some solutions for that. I know that there's other cities that put together graffiti task forces that I remember when I was much, much younger, I worked in Malden, and they had a graffiti task force, and all you had to do was call the city. They would show up within 48 hours and just remove the graffiti free of charge. Obviously we're all resource strapped, but we want to put forward these ideas and have this conversation. Some of it might be a budget issue. Some of it might just be a willingness issue.
And I do just want to emphasize that we're not here to particularly complain or blame any particular city department, but we really just want to share what we all know is happening and what is preventing our business community from thriving. And we all actively do our part to help make this a better downtown. Tess and I are on the same block. We're always out there picking up trash, and we're not the only ones. Everyone here from the Business Association today does play their role in making sure that their storefronts and their area looks good for people coming down. But when you don't have people coming down because of all the other fluff that is happening, it just makes it really challenging. So again, we do just want to work together, and we understand that, you know, we're all volunteers doing this. We're going above and, you know, outside of our thresholds to do this. And so we just ask for the same help from the folks from our public resources.
And so first, Councilor Bacon had her hand, and then I saw the mayor, and I do want to give Carl a chance to present as well.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I will be brief, but I just wanted to sort of double down on the visibility aspect of the police. I think that's huge. And within the last year and a half, I was involved in a meeting, I think it was at our Public Safety Committee. Over 60% of the drug overdoses that happen in Holyoke are not Holyoke residents. So we are a destination point for people to come buy their drugs, use their drugs, have the needles on the ground, and ODing on our streets. So to me, if we have a lot more visibility, it will be a deterrent for the people to come here to do their one-stop shopping. And to any degree that we can eliminate the things that we are giving out, unintentionally enabling for this activity to continue and thrive, is a win for every single member of the city. And earlier when we were talking about degrees of issues in the city, when I'm talking about speeding and traffic and parking, I'm talking about the frequency of the calls that we get from people. When it comes to downtown, people are voting with their feet. They will not come here. I have people say to me, I don't believe that you go and park down there to go to meetings. And I'm like, well, I'm on the city council. But I'm just saying, people they're avoiding the problem. And so I think the visibility of police and the deterrent factor would be huge, because there's so many people that still live here that just loved growing up here. And they're really very sad when they come down, you know, because they remember when it was so much better. So I just applaud that plan and hope it happens sooner rather than later. And I have two questions. If we have the cameras, can the police follow up on things like license plates and this and that and go after them? Or are there limitations to that? And then my other question is, and I might be very much dating myself, but in the old days, if somebody was raving drunk, the police came and took them into protective custody. In my mind, if somebody is defecating on the streets in public, they need to be taken into protective custody, regardless of whatever the cause may be, because they're clearly a danger to themselves and the public. So again, I ask those as questions because I'm not sure of how much discretion there is in that regard when it comes to that type of thing. And I'll be quiet now, but thank you.
Thank you.
Pass those questions to the chief. But as long, the question from Councilor McGivern, what can we do to help? What you're doing right now is helping. This group, actually, I've never got invited to an association meeting. This is the first time they decided to come into a public format, because meeting in my office, it doesn't offer the amount of pressure that it would then in a public setting. Maybe the news is watching right now and they might want to write about it, and everyone will mobilize and get things moving. The community needs to really step up and demand a level of expectation of what they want their neighborhood to be. And if we would have met, I could have answered a lot of those things. You talk about graffiti removal. Carl's going to talk about that. We have a program that's coming very soon. I think I actually told you about that. So When we talk about, McGivern brought up the officers. Yes, we have a handful of officers that are currently in the academy. When I first came in as mayor, it was difficult to pivot in any direction until I knew exactly what was going on, which is why part of the reason why we commissioned the study. We learned we were understaffed, under-resourced, and since I've been here, I've been able to understand more how things work and where time is being spent. And so I'm really hoping that these folks do come in the fall, you start noticing a bit of a difference. That coupled with other things that we can be doing more, and I know we can be doing more. The chief has been great at trying to untangle a culture that's within the police department. There has been some progress, but nevertheless, you know, I stand with the people in their frustration. We can't sit around and wait for people to figure their stuff out and their careers out here in the city of Holyoke. We need patrol, we need enforcement. I love the idea, if you see someone strung out, why can't they be put in protective custody? You know, I've seen cruisers drive by situations in areas. Why do we have to wait for a call in order to respond? I share those frustrations too. And those are the very things that I know this chief has certainly been working on, coupled with, you know, building capacity. The camera situation, there will be an order coming in front of you soon with a quote to upgrade our citywide cameras and install new cameras in areas where we need them. The chief supplied with me a map circling areas where the cameras are that need to be upgraded and circling new areas where we need to put up cameras. Those cameras, so there's work there that's coming. So the issue is that there's the problem of right now, and you know, it's frustrating, very frustrating. But I know that the plan's in motion currently. You know, the chief landed an opportunity I don't want to speak too much about, but I think is going to offer some difference in a couple of weeks. Nevertheless, you know, there's things moving on that front. In the area of trash, the study you speak, that's exactly the problem. We have a plan. Mind you, we didn't have a DPW director for a long time. We had a DPW director that was absent. And then when that DPW director left, we had an interim director who was just holding down the fort, dealing with all sorts of issues, people leaving, hard to find people to fill positions. Finally, we landed a permanent director, and now trash and recycling study group was formed. That work was happening while we were searching for a director, and we're now in a position where I think you're going to start seeing a transition of changes. That, and also dealing with the culture at the DPW, we're trying to untangle, and there's some good work happening there to motivate and inspire and change direction, together with new changes that are coming that the public can expect as far as trash and recycling is concerned citywide. So, Carl.
You wait? All right. I think, first of all, your idea of a business improvement district is phenomenal. It's worked in a lot of municipalities that I've worked in. It'll afford you an opportunity to hire someone to empty out any trash receptacles in front of the stores and help clean with the alleys. In my hometown, we have that. It was called the Botany Village Improvement District. They hired someone to do exactly what you need. I mean, the funding, obviously, what we need to do is to put trash cans in front of businesses. This is where I could come into one of the meetings and we could all talk together where we want to put them. So if we could go ahead with the business improvement district, that will help you guys a lot and help solve one of the issues. Now, there's two theories on trash cans in front of businesses. One is that it collects the garbage, you know, keeps the trash off the streets, but it also collects unwanted garbage. The unwanted garbage that I'm talking about is residential garbage. So those trash cans get full quickly. We've had some of those issues around town since I've been here, which I think we moved one or two of them, and we're seeing that at those areas, there's no trash on the ground. So, I'm willing to talk to you about, the trash cans in front of it. We have to find funding to put them there as far as, the city is concerned. But once, if you could either, like you said, adopt the can to make sure it's disposed of, we have no issue putting a can in front of your place, or if you hire someone to help keep the improvement district clean, that's awesome. The other thing that we were talking about is the trash. What we have planned, and we had this meeting a couple of weeks ago with our team, we procured, this is citywide, garbage totes for all the residents. Okay, so they'll have a garbage tote, 96-gallon garbage totes. The trucks are being outfitted for the tippers in the back, so the employees don't have to lift the 96-gallon garbage totes. And we're going to set a policy up. If it's not in a can, it's not going to be picked up. Okay, and then we have to do our enforcement on our end, that we have to educate the public, tag the bags, let them understand what they need to do. So every resident, if it's a one-family resident, you get one garbage can. If it's a two-family, you get 2 garbage cans. Up to 4 families. I think we collect up to 4 families. As far as recycling goes, we're at the same time, we're going forward with doing the dual stream, because the single stream, everybody's been doing it. I don't want to go into that story because I think everybody knows it and it's been beaten to death, but we're trying to enforce dual stream so it's a cleaner product for the city, and same thing, educate the public. So around August 15th, we're going to send out mailers to the whole public, letting them know that this is what expected for dual stream. I'm going to say mid-August, at the same time for the trash, letting them know that to expect these totes coming in, these 96-gallon trash cans coming, being delivered to their houses. In about September 15th, there'll be a rollout, and we're going to start doing it in the week after. So this will probably help a lot with what you see as the unsightly trash in downtown and in all around the city. As far as the graffiti removal goes, it was a matter of purchasing the equipment. Last piece of equipment we were looking for is the trailer to mount the pressure washer and tank, the water tank on, and we just got it this week. So hopefully within the next month or so, you'll see that we'll do our graffiti program. I'm working with Sean in the health department on that, and also with procurement. And so these are things that have been going on, and please feel free to invite me to a meeting, because that way I could let you know these things, what's happening, and you could always ask questions. Even shoot me an email, and let me know.
Absolutely. And I do just want to note that we do meet regularly, and it's the first Thursday of the month from 5 to 7. But I can make sure that I get that information over to you, Carl, and Chief Pratt as well.
And the mayor.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Don't invite me. That's what these guys are for.
Fair. Nadeem?
Hey, thank you so much for that. That's really exciting news. I hadn't heard about the graffiti removal truck, but that's wonderful news. I love that.
I could have updated you if you would have reached out to my office, but you decided to go to the council. It's all good.
I think, I'm sorry, I think it's really important that we're having a public conversation, and I understand that it's frustrating that you haven't been invited to all the meetings, but I also think we're kind of killing like 17 birds with one stone here by getting the public to understand what the frustrations are, by getting the city council to understand, Carl, the chief. So, with all due respect, it's not a shot at you that, you will make sure you're on the calendar invite going forward.
Yeah, I did just want to say this meeting is absolutely not to cast blame or shame anyone or anything like that whatsoever. We actually support a ton of these things. I was actually gonna give a shout out to the mayor because for his Flex program, the Flex Squad, which we've seen do great things. And even as, you know, a recipient of some of those violations, I'm happy to get them because
I know. Yep.
I see that it's working, you know. So I think that good things are happening. We know that there's resource constraints. We know that these things take a long time to build. And, you know, you'll have to forgive us a little bit for groping in the dark. We're not politicians. We're just trying to make life better for everybody. So, you know, if we're not approaching things in the right order, you know, please forgive us. But I think all of our intentions are aligned.
So thank you for expressing that. That's not, Counselor, at all where I'm coming from. Obviously, we have to do a better job, and I think we communicate more than any other I've seen any other administration do. I communicate a lot of information out of the public, but obviously communication and civic engagement is always the hardest piece of local government. And I did comment earlier on that this was a good thing because this helps share information. When I say if you would have reached out to my office instead of going to the council, you can call me anytime and I can share this information. I'm not saying not to go to the council, but at the same time, like, yeah, we have community challenges. We're all frustrated. It's the first thing I think of in the morning, and it's the last thing I think about at night when I go to bed 11 o'clock, dealing with all these top level issues that come up in every conversation, every lunch, because I know it's a big concern. But yeah, you can always reach out. We can, you know, answer questions. Departments are available to answer questions, but you know, we got a lot of work to do internally to try to untangle these knots that are causing these quality of life issues, together with trying to figure out how to get the appropriate state resources to be able to strategically and much more effectively tackle this pandemic that's happening across the state and even the country. But I apologize, Madam Chair, if it came off negatively at all. I think I've proven myself to be a pretty good team player here. But again, you can always, when you say you didn't know, you would have known if you would have called me or called any of the departments. But we're here, and this definitely raises the level of attention that I appreciate, because I need the community to publicly understand and engage and demand accountability. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I meant to recognize Councilor Rivera and then Councilor Bartley, and I'm just also being mindful of time because we have several more items on the agenda. So we're going to get to those and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Chairwoman Romboletti. So, I guess I want to say thank you for bringing this forward to the council. Right, this is frustration that I've been hearing not just from the business community but from residents as well that visit High Street on a regular basis. But it's not something that is just a Holyoke issue. I would say it's a larger issue overall, as several people have mentioned before, right? I think what is a Holyoke issue is the culture. And that is something that we have to change, and the narrative has to change. And that's what we as a community together, as the mayor had mentioned before, have to come together and devise and create a strategic plan around how we're going to approach this. Because we can do one-off meetings, or we can ask the police to do more, but at the end of the day, if everyone else in the community is not on board, it will continue to happen. Mm-hmm. It's not going to change anything. As Mr. McGivern had mentioned before, they've been there and they've talked about this before, and it continues to happen decade after decade. It just looks different. Before it was crack, then it became heroin, now it's fentanyl, right? So overall, how do we as a community come together, right? How do we empower the businesses? How do we empower the residents to actually step up and take initiative on certain situations? How do we take back our spaces? How do we take back our parks? How do we take back High Street? The bid process sounds like an awesome idea and an awesome solution, especially because through that revenue stream, that tax, and I hate to say it that way, but we necessarily cannot afford that at this moment, right? Where we could probably put up the trash barrels, as the DPW director had mentioned, but to send someone every day or every week, that would take away from another task that we would need them to do. So the bid would help out with having someone actually police the street up and down, right? Help as a security guard of some sorts, and at the same time help clean, change, and I believe that in Springfield what helped transform Worthington is this process. And I believe in a couple other streets in Springfield that has transformed, that kind of looked like High Street at one time, has gone through the bid process, and they kind of contract out this work to private entities to come in and do that through their own business tax. That would help the city out a bunch. That would take initiative, and it would show that the businesses want to be involved alongside us, with us as a city, right? We will do our part to the best of our abilities, because I'm a counselor, I'm not the mayor. No disrespect. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking that it makes sense to move forward with the process where the bids ideology would help us as a city, help alleviate some of the stress, and help you guys figure out some of the issues that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. We're thinking about just this High Street corridor. A lot of the other problems throughout the city, those are throughout the city. What you guys came forward is just about this High Street corridor. More police down the street, that makes sense. When I was a kid, there was police on bikes. I remember Eggy and Piranha. Piranha is Sistash. They used to be on the bikes when I was a little kid, up and down High Street. It's different now, I guess, but I'm hearing we're working towards that, and we'll get there. So when we get there, things will be better. And again, thank you guys for presenting and bringing this forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Bartley.
Just to you both, thank you very much. Your presentation was very calm, and so, that's your style. But I can tell you, we have yelled and screamed in here numerous times about these issues throughout the city. I certainly have orders relative to trash receptacles that they're still pending because we don't get feedback from departments. I don't get feedback from committee chairs on when we're going to take these things up. But I have orders filed. So we could yell about it and all that stuff, but maybe it takes private sector individuals like yourselves to really take the lead. I know Mr. Whitman's here, is a friend of mine. He's done a quality property owner, done a lot of work in the city. We need more people like that that want to take the initiative. And it can't just be the mayor, can't just be the department. It's got to be from you, and you need to follow up as much as you can. This is, to me, I'm hearing this, so it's a great start. I hope it goes further than this, and I'll be as supportive as I humanly can. I would only say, relative to a bid, if you can get the business owners to go along with that, I'll tip my hat to you. And again, that's it seems to have success in Springfield. The downtown seems to be in pretty good shape. But violent crimes are up in Stern Square area. So it's a case where certainly you move 2 steps forward and maybe you're going back a half a step or something. But this is a wonderful idea, and if I can be helpful, I will. And I'm glad to hear of it, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are we good? Okay. So I want to thank the committee, the association, the mayor, the DPW superintendent, all of the business owners, the police chief. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate. I know it's a long conversation, but it's definitely important to have. And we'll keep inviting folks to the meeting, and I encourage councilors to continue to do what you can to support High Street and downtown businesses in general.
So motion's been complied with?
Yep. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
did you want to take some of these as a package?
Sure.
So why don't you give me 6 through 10 maybe?
A couple of them are sales, and then a couple of them are surplus. Does that matter?
Yeah, let's separate them out. I think
Okay.
that's the best. So which ones are?
The 6 and 7 are sales.
So I'll make a motion to suspend our rules, take 6 and 7 as a package.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. This evening, we are joined by Jamie Morrow, who is the city's purchasing director. We're also joined by staff from the Office of Planning and Economic Development, Aaron and John, and the Law Department, of course. So the order itself, I'll read it into the record, is that the City Council, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, vote that the City of Holyoke accept the proposal and sell 267 Elm Street for $15,000 to M.G.L Holdings, LLC. Property is described in the City Assessor Records, Map 4-3, Parcel 4. About 5,662 square feet of vacant land. It's zoned as downtown residential with an assessed value of $34,500. I'm gonna pause there and see if either Jamie or Aaron or John. I don't see the applicant with us this evening.
Want to just take them both up to read them
Oh, I'm
both
so
down?
sorry. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
I'm going to read item 7 because we're doing this as a package. Item 7 is that the City Council vote that the city accepts the proposal and sells 107 Clemente Street for $34,700 to Housing Innovations and Programming, Inc., a division of the Holyoke Housing Authority. Property is about 6,534 square feet, zoned downtown residential with an assessed value of $34,700. Those are the two orders tonight that have to do with the sale of city property. We technically can't close the door. You can close one of them though. That might be helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Or maybe our friends could can you guys go down the hall? I love you.
Do that.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
If that works. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Sorry. Okay. So I don't see. I know that Matt Mainville. Yep. Thank you, Aaron. Go ahead.
So, good evening, councilors. Nice to see everybody. Great conversation on High Street. Obviously, we're proud to be part of that initiative, and really look forward to working with all of you on the good things happening. And just also want to mention, that there is some great restaurants and some great businesses downtown that you might see a beggar or a panhandler or two, but there's still a lot of great businesses to support downtown. So. With that, though, tonight, the properties here before you, obviously we're continuing to move properties into private hands, which is another key thing to address. Some of these issues about illegal dumping and blight is to get these properties actually developed in the control of other property owners. And so tonight we have one property owner that has done a lot of development within the city, doing single two-family homes. And so that's Eric Taub, he's with us. That's the first item. And then the second one, the Housing Authority. That's a lot on Clemente that's been empty for a long time. And so we're hoping that it made sense for the abutters, one of the abutters to get that. And so, again, another area that's had some illegal dumping. I know Sean from the Board of Health has worked with us on moving that property. John's with us, obviously. So we've, sort of supported this process, but Jamie has taken this process, head on. As the purchasing director, so we've been supporting her. So she ran with this one. This was kind of the first one that she definitely just sort of took on, just without us sort of being more of the back support. So John and I continue to support this process, and again, sort of a part of the process throughout. But Jamie put together the bid and put the RFP and put together the review committee. So we're here to support, but happy to be here. And again, Eric is here for the first item. And I'll turn it over back to you, Madam Chair. But again, Jamie and myself, and of course, John are here to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron. So, Eric, I see you now on the Zoom. Sorry about that. So, if you'd like to present what your plan is with the property. And then I'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, so I did a quick due diligence on this lot. It's a DR zoned, and some of the dimensions are kind of small, so we're gonna have to get a special permit for any construction being built there. So we are gonna, if we get the lot, we're gonna propose building a duplex there. We built 2 already in Holyoke. We built several other ones in other cities nearby. And the 2 that we built also went already to City Council, the one on 86 and 102 Beach Street. So we're gonna build a similar duplex right there in Elm Street.
Okay.
So pretty much,
All right, thank you. I'm gonna pause. Sure, I'll have questions, but I want to give counselors a chance to ask questions. Counselor Bartley.
Just through the chair to Eric or to John or Aaron. What's the status with it? Is it an empty lot, gentlemen? And what are the outstanding taxes that are due? Just so I have an understanding of it.
Aaron or John, do you want to answer that? I think I know some of the answers, but did you get to hear that?
Or can you repeat?
Yeah.
Counselor again? No.
Yeah, John. Currently it's an empty lot. Is that correct?
Vacant land.
Vacant land, I believe.
Lot, and hopefully the committee received the description with the assessor's information and pictures and map and such, but it's an empty lot between a 2-family house. It's been vacant for a while. If you had a photo of it, you would see the front is kind of in disarray with the wall there. And Eric put together a very thorough proposal, and we can discuss that after.
Yeah, John, sometimes when I ask a question, I know the answer to it, but so the public doesn't have the same pamphlet in front that I have. So I just try to have the conversation that way. So it's an empty lot right now with just a wall, right? So, and what's the outstanding taxes that are due? Or that we when we foreclosed, when we took in tax title?
This one, when we took it in tax title back in 2017, was just over $101,000. The majority of that, over 60,000 of that was the demolition lien for the fire damaged house that was on the property.
Okay, and then how did the city go about marketing this property?
Do you want? Maybe that's more of a question for Jamie.
Sorry, Jamie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't know if John was frozen.
Yeah, how'd you go about marketing the property, John?
Yeah, sorry, it was just the standard process is to send to abutters primarily, do the central register with the state and publicize it on the city website. I don't recall if this one, if there was a press release. That's been one of the steps we've been using. I don't recall if that was done for this one, but pretty much our standard notification process, yeah.
And then the last question: how do we come up? How do we get to the agreed to price of $15,000? And do you think that's fair to the city?
Yeah. I think and I'll defer to Jamie because I know she did a lot of the work on this. But we do an analysis of and we do think it's fair. But Jamie, can you touch on that a little bit, please?
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, so let me talk about how we got to the 15,000. Eric Tabb had he presented us with an offer for $2,000. I put it forth to the RFP review committee, and his proposal was, well received for the duplex. However, the price was not. Since Eric was the only bidder on 267 Elm Street, it gave us the opportunity to negotiate with him. So we did go back and forth for about a week or so. Eric did present to us some of the issues with the lot, the special permit, A retaining wall would need to be done. There were several things that he would have to put into the property to make it buildable. So he, I think, offered us 10,000. We countered at 15, and the committee thought that that was fair in response to the work that needed to be done to the lot to make it buildable.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Councilor McGivern.
Just a question. Once the duplex is built, what is the estimated property tax the city will receive?
If I may, I would probably look at what the similar duplex city built on 86 Beach Street. I think that would probably be a good basis for estimated taxes. It's a similar structure. It was built on Beach Street, and I believe it's already been disposed of. So if you're looking for a reference, I would think that would be a similar reference point. I don't know if John has that information, or Aaron, or we could get it to you guys via email tomorrow.
Thank you, Jamie. And I think you answered my second question. Once the duplex is built, this is to Aaron or whoever, you do sell the property to market rate?
I think that's a question for Eric, but yes, he's been building these duplexes. There's a couple on Beach Street, there's a couple others throughout the city, and I believe that he does try to sell them. Obviously, it's a great opportunity for sometimes a first-time homeowner to then have the rent from the second unit. I don't think they're sold separately. I think they're sold as one unit, but I defer to Eric to know the business model.
Which is a very successful formula in the city of Holyoke over the years, and I support that. It's just a question of the sale price itself is going to be part of dictating what the property taxes are. So that relays back to the question of, is $15,000 fair, which right now I think it is, but I just like to answer to those questions.
If I could interrupt, and I did look up the two recent properties that Mr. Taub purchased and built on 86 and I believe it's 102 Beach, and they're both right in the vicinity of $300,000 in value. That equates to about $6,000 a year in annual taxes. And that was a good suggestion by Jimmy. It's actually an analysis we didn't do in terms of future value, but I think those are very good benchmarks to go by.
So first, Councilor Bartley and then Councilor Bacon.
Actually, I appreciate that, but I'm so glad Joe asked the question, and I looked at it myself, and John's right on point about $300,000, and so what Mr. Taub's company did was he took basically an empty lot. Now we did help out with the setback and some of those other issues that we did in this committee, so it was a benefit to Mr. Taub. But the way I look at it, Mr. Taub's making the investment and taking what was an empty hole in the streetscape and putting in 2 units for housing. And so it's a win for everybody, I think. So I tip my hat. I think Joe's question is outstanding, though, because really it's something I don't necessarily think about myself. So I hope is that the OPED will kind of do that analysis going forward. I think that helps complete the picture. So I'm good. Thank you.
Councilor Bacon?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sale.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Are there any other councilors? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Did we just vote on both of them?
No, we just voted on one. Now we'll go 7.
Great. Thank you, Eric, and staff. Just so you're aware, the next full city council meeting is on August 1st, so this will be referred to the full city council. And then item 7 is for 107 Clemente, $34,700 for the division from the Holyoke Housing Authority. So I know that Matt was not able to attend. Aaron mentioned that. Does anyone have, does staff want to comment on this proposal or add anything?
Well, I would just add real quick. I mean, this again went through the same process. I'll defer again to Jamie to give you the details. They are paying the actual assessed value. So that's where that number came from, through the assessors. And again, they're obviously in a butter with the housing that they have, the apartment building right there. And so I believe it's a green space and maybe some parking, but mostly green space. But I defer to Jamie to get some of the details. But again, I think John provided the map and the information on the preliminary information there. So Matt was unable to make it this evening, unfortunately, but obviously we can answer questions that the council may have at this point.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Councilor Rivera and then Councilor Bartley.
Mine is brief. With regards to the policy around getting the word out, is there a reason why the butters get it first before anyone else in the city? Just because I'm not sure if that feels, and nothing against this project, I'm just saying over the policy overall. I'm not sure if it feels equitable throughout the city overall. But at the end of the day, if that's the policy, that's the policy. I just was wondering if someone could give me some insight on the concept as to the reason behind that policy, right? Maybe because they're a neighbor and they get the first dibs, but if it's a piece of property that can be bought at a very cheaper price, it allows for others to actually get a play in the game, in a sense.
Thank you, Councilor. Good question. And this was not strictly a butters one. I mean, there's sometimes when there's a property that's unbuildable, it's too small. Sometimes it'll just be in a butters auction, but or a butters notification. But this one was fully aware, fully put out there publicly, I think, Jamie. Yeah. So.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to follow up what Councilor Vera just said, just very briefly, because it's a good point. It's just slightly out of order, but I think it's something that should be developed more with a communication or an order file to get a communication relative to how OPED markets. So I never really heard this giving a butter notice stuff before. That's why I always ask the question I generally always ask the question how we got the word out about this. Mike Sullivan was very adamant about that too. How do we advertise for the city? So I think in that context it's in order. But when we talk about a deeper conversation, I'm not sure if that's necessarily compliant with open meeting law. But I would like to hear more about that. Just through the chair to Mr. Vega, to Mr. Aaron, or to John, what is Holyoke? Wow, where is it? What is Housing Innovations and Programming? What is that about?
Yeah. My understanding, it's a subsidiary of Holyoke Housing Authority. I really don't have much background on that, beyond that.
Okay.
Well, it's a corporation, and I see it was created on 12/12/18, and I see the board of directors, and I read that. I'm going to look up here. Looks like they filed. That's great. That's exciting. They filed their annual report. They haven't filed it for 23, but it's not due yet, believe it or not. So, I'm just wondering is this? I can't tell reading from the secretary's website whether or not this is a for-profit corporation or a nonprofit. I wouldn't know that from the secretary's website, but I certainly would like to know that. I'd like to know who this entity is prior to voting on this, and now that's just me, so I'll defer to the committee. But right now, unless I know who, I know who these people are. I know all their names, obviously, but why is Holyoke Housing Authority setting up a separate corporation for properties that they are? that they're buying from the City of Holyoke, and what else is this corporation doing? And I'd like to know whether it's a profit or a nonprofit corporation. And so I guess I'd want to, good for them, they can set it up. I'm sure it's well within the bounds of doing that, I have no doubt, but and I don't think there's anything nefarious, Madam Chair. I'm not implying that at all. But generally, when we're selling a property to somebody, generally the proponent is here before us.
Yes, and I'm not sure they got, I don't know how much notice I don't know.
Now, if the chair says to me, well, listen, Bartley, this is Holyoke Housing Authority, I've done my, if the chair says, well, I've called Matt Mainville and I've done this due diligence, I heard what John Dydrick said.
Sure.
And Aaron
So
Bates.
if I may, just to specifically answer the question about whether it's a nonprofit or not, actually on the packet that we all received, it explains the buyer. So just to read it, the Housing Authority's nonprofit affiliate, Housing Innovations and Programming, Inc., is submitting this proposal for the purchase of 107 Clemente. HIP has been used in the South Holyoke development activity and is involved in several different roles as a development arm of the Holyoke Housing Authority. HIP is staffed by Holyoke Housing Authority employees and therefore has the commitment and expertise of the Holyoke Housing Authority. Matt Mainville will serve as the contact person for the HIP, and it provides his contact information. So just to address that piece, I do understand, usually we try to have the proponents in. And I thought I saw that Jamie had her hand up, but.
And you're saying they're going to use it for parking.
I did, Tessa. I was going to point out the same thing you did.
Okay. Okay.
That did it. And also, I just wanted to, this did actually have a press release. And these 3 pieces of property that went out, there was a third that we did not recommend. We're actually putting it back out. But these 2 pieces of property got a ton of press coverage. It was covered on Mass Live, and it was on WWLP too. If you guys did a Google search, it would probably come up. If you put in one of these addresses, there was a press release done through Aaron and John, and it did get a lot of coverage, these. So I just wanted to let people know that.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question.
Okay.
Just to the chair, to Jamie. So Jamie, these are all Holyoke Housing Authority employees? Are they paid? Is this a separate job for them to work for this organization known as HIP? Are they using Holyoke Housing Authority resources to do this? Is it a?
They are a nonprofit. They're a 501c3. So I would, I can't speak for HIP or Holyoke Housing Authority, but from my understanding, being a 501c3 nonprofit, they are funded somehow through state or local government, as well as, I would assume, grant writing and stuff. And the main purpose for this property acquisition would be to serve the 35 units at Beaudry Boucher right next door. In addition to parking, they wanted to offer the residents there an opportunity for green space, benches, game tables, lighting, landscaping. They're going to put cameras in the lot. So this is an extension of the Housing Authority through a creation of a 501c3 where they're able to purchase these types of things to support.
So why not? So why not just buy it through Holyoke Housing Authority? Why do it through this entity? Why?
I'm assuming because of the 501c3, the nonprofit. I don't know. That would be a Matthew Mainville question or a HHA. I can't speak for them.
Yeah, obviously you can't. I know you can't. So that's why it's helpful to have them here to answer. Well, all right. Thank you. I appreciate your insight, though. That was very helpful.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. Councilor Rivera's question first, just a clarification. We adopted an ordinance years ago because the butters were not being notified that a property next to them was up for sale. We just want to make sure the immediate butters are, especially, notified that this is going out for RFP or auction or whichever the building or, purchasing or the mayor chooses to go. I kind of get this. I think Councilor Berkeley's questions are pretty interesting. We're in a partnership with the Holyoke Housing Authority, and Boudry apartments themselves, Boucher, are there, and residents that do and could use some additional green space, and the additional parking would help out the entire neighborhood. The South Street project, South Holyoke project itself, is trying to reduce the not the saturation, and that's the wrong word, but the intensity of demand on those streets in terms of both parking, because of the amount of buildings that used to be there before everybody needed a car. But at the same time, we're taking this off the tax rolls, and I think that's why HIP is a not-for-profit corporation, because the housing authority doesn't pay taxes, but they do come into a in lieu of tax agreement initiative or agreement with the city itself, which we all know Mayor Garcia is working with the housing authority and other entities about. I don't always support these because this doesn't put the property back on the tax rolls. However, there is a greater good for the neighborhood, Boudry itself, which is Ward 2, which I understand, and the general overall picture of that neighborhood itself, this makes sense. The price is fair. Hopefully the mayor and the Matt, when he's available, will be able to negotiate this into in lieu of tax agreement with the city. But as far as the price and as far as what they're proposing to do with it, I get it. As far as the not-for-profit, I hope we don't see a lot of HIP proposals, because taking more and more property off the tax rolls is not going to help us provide the services that Boudry needs in terms of police, fire, schools, and DPW and so forth.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. I'll entertain a motion, or I'll entertain a motion for what this body is hoping.
I'd like to move it forward, but my only question is, I'd like to learn more about HIP and where it's getting its. So it's going to pay $34,000 for this. Well, where's that money derived from? How does HIP make money? Does HIP get grants? Do they? We have a right to ask those questions when it's coming for Holyoke. We appoint the 4 of the 5 commissioners. Yes, the mayor appoints what we approve. That's how it works. 4 or 5 of the commissioners, as Councilor McGivern said. So we have a direct role. But as Councilor McGivern also said, we want to support the tenants, keep the green space going. It's very important for the community. I'm not opposed to this. It sounds like a fair price, but I think it's fair that we get a communication at a minimum from Holyoke Housing Authority, just answering some of my questions, or from HIP at least. Okay? So.
Jeffrey, do you think you could help us facilitate that?
Just a communication for August 1st.
Yep.
Sure,
Okay.
I can do that.
Well then, I saw Linda first, Councilor Bacon first, and then Councilor
And I
McGivern.
think I'm kind of tagging on to Councilor McGivern's point that he made earlier, if we could also ask them about their intention relative to a pilot.
Okay.
I mean, why not?
Councilor McGivern?
I just, it's always good to hear. The mayor's working on it, but, we're not that we can't hear about it. Jamie, I'm sorry, I forgot one question I meant to ask you. When it went out to bid, did anybody else come forward besides the housing authority with HIP?
There was. We had 3 submitters for 107 Clemente Street. We had there was an abutter that owned, I believe it was one of the garages there. He wanted it for overflow and parking for his business or to store more cars. And then Mr. Taub had submitted for 107 Clemente too. He submitted a proposal to build a duplex there as well.
Well, what's wrong with building a duplex there?
So this is an RFP process. This went before an RFP review committee where they reviewed each proposal on its face and the price and the best fit for the neighborhood. And the RFP review committee, they thought that for the 107 Clemente Street, that Matthew Mainville's proposal was the strongest and the best fit for that neighborhood.
You can ask the price, Joe. Go ahead. So
What was the other price that was offered?
I believe it was like 1 or 2,000 also. It was a very low offer.
Similar to what you negotiated up to 15,
Correct.
This one's very cool.
but then we get property tax.
I think the property tax question is something that we could follow up with as well. If you look at the RFP that was put out, the RFP that we put out of my office, it does say they are signing the papers saying that they will be on the tax paying roll. So I'm not quite familiar. This could be a tax collector question, but I know that they are going to pay some type of taxes. I don't know whether it be a pilot. I don't think it's a payment in lieu of taxes. I think they would be subject to some percent of taxes. We do put it out in our RFP that it is if you are bidding on it, you are willing to pay taxes on it.
Councilor Bartley.
So first of all, Jamie, that is excellent to know that.
Yeah.
I would also say, however, we've run into headwinds at Holyoke Housing Authority relative to their willingness to remit a pilot. I know the mayor works on that, but it doesn't seem like it's getting very far, especially in light of what we had the last applicant before us, who we're all going to vote for, but it didn't sound like that last applicant for commissioner was much interested in supporting a pilot. But what I would be interested in is hearing from the law department relative to that question. So I'm going to ask for a conditional vote on that. Hear from the law department. Can we, in one of our conditions, compel even a HIP, who's a 501c3, can we compel them as a condition that they negotiate a pilot with the city of Holyoke relative to if they're going to get this property? Because I don't know if we can say, for legal, if you're a 501c3, generally, there's no avenue for the municipality to collect a property tax. That's one of the many reasons why you're a 501c3. Many, many reasons. But can the city of Holyoke, through the RFP process, which you said it's in there, so I'm not doubting that for a second. But does that stand valid relative to a entity like HIP? That's a 501c3. So I certainly would like, before I take a final vote on August 1st, I'd certainly like to hear from the law department as to whether the city can potentially collect a pilot from them.
Could we ask?
Yeah, so
sorry.
Hold on. Everyone's got their hands up. Everyone's talking all at once. I saw Aaron's hand first, and then I saw Jane. And then if Jamie, if you have anything to add, we'll do that.
Real quick, thank you, Madam Chair. We've been through this. The RFPs that we put out make them taxpaying entities. Hence, Bay State with what was Kindred and now the new entity, that's a taxpaying entity despite that's nonprofit. Wayfinders who bid on High Street, who get the High Street property next to Lechonera, they are going to pay property tax. So we have recently, OPED has definitely, and through the HRA and other ones that we do, have had this in our RFP process since I've been on. So I think it's within the last 3 years it's been there. So again, the former Geriatric Authority, that now is Bay State, which is a nonprofit, will be paying taxes. Wayfinders, once they develop the High Street property, I can't remember the number of it, but right next to Lechonera, I guess it's 5 Essex. So we've been doing this, and we've been working with the law department on this for the last few RFPs that we've gone out for, and it's been in there, again, for all the RFPs that I've been on involved for the last 2.5 years.
Thank you. Attorney Mantelewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo what Aaron was saying, that a lot of our past, as long as I've been here, we've done a couple with some nonprofits, and they do contain that language in the RFP, in the purchase and sale agreement, in the deed, that they will still be paying regular taxes under the normal tax rate. And even though a nonprofit or a 501c3 is technically exempt, that does not mean that they can't agree to pay taxes. And that's part of the whole process. And part of our RFP saying that even if you are a 501c3, we want you to pay taxes. And if you're going to be the successful bidder or person on this property, then you're going to pay the taxes.
Thank you. And then Councilor McGivern?
With all due respect to the last two speakers, I get it and I understand that and I commend what's been going on with the RFP process. The difference here is there was another bidder in the RFP process that was proposing to put a home that could be valued up to $300,000. A vacant green parking lot taxed does not produce what a duplex home valued close to $300,000 would produce. How can the RFP committee justify the difference here?
I'm gonna see if Jamie, yep.
Yeah, so Counselor, that's a great question, and I would be happy to share with you the sheet. So the RFP committee that I've convened now, with me being the purchasing director, is made up of the financial departments. These are the people that care about things being on the tax books, that we're collecting taxes and that, we're doing the things the right way. So my RFP review committee consists of the tax collector, the assessor's office, the law department, the treasurer's office, and I'm missing somebody, but I have treasurer, assessor, tax collector, law department. Who am I missing? Oh, and the auditor, I'm sorry. So I have all five, representative from all five financial departments on my RFP review committee. The committee is given the proposals and the RFPs, and they are giving a review sheet where they rank them according to Mass General Law. HA, highly advantageous, advantageous, not advantageous, or unacceptable. Sometimes the issues are with the proposal. They're incomplete, they're not, I can't speak for the RFP review committee. By law, I am not a voting member on an RFP review committee because I am the overseer of the process, making sure that we are doing the process legally and following Chapter 30B. So I do have completed review sheets for all of these proposals, and I would be happy to share them with you so you can, have some insight as to what they were thinking and how they scored.
Thank you, Jamie. Counselor?
You're welcome.
Follow up or?
I prepare to make a motion.
Okay.
Make a motion that we deny the proposed sale agreement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. I think we need to see more information.
Should we table it or you want to deny it?
My motion is to deny.
Okay. Yep. Counselor.
I would speak in opposition to that, although I can understand the reason why. I have my questions too, but I'm pretty comfortable either tabling it or I would vote to support it based if I could get just some more background information for this, because I think what Aaron said, it reminded me of I forgot because we did all that here relative to the Geriatric Authority and Providence Hospital, and now look at them go. I mean, they're commercial tax-paying entities. Is this the highest and best use for this lot? I don't have intimate familiarity with that particular address, but that's why we kind of lean heavily on staff. I think many of us here have said that over the years. We got the staff here, they're doing their thing, and they're reviewing it. So I think, I'm not going to speak for any counselor, but I think if we, Madam Chair, if we had them here, it's just a lot more comfortable having the applicant here. This is unusual. We know them all, I get it, but I'd like to make a motion to table this, and
Can I second both?
I'd like to make a motion to table it in committee and have them come for down the road.
I would second that also.
Okay.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if it's in order.
Yes, it would be in order.
Yes.
It would be in order, and a table would take precedence, and it's non-debatable. You have to take that vote first.
You take the
table motion.
The table.
Just like if I said motion to adjourn.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd have to take that. Of course, I wouldn't do that. But.
Yeah. Okay. So taking the table motion, we'll vote on that.
Yes.
All those in favor, I should probably do, should I do a roll call? Counselor Bartley?
Yes.
Roll call.
Well, it's roll call.
Yep.
I vote yes.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Yes.
You guys are throwing me for a loop here. Counselor Bartley is yes. Counselor McGivern?
No.
Counselor Vacant?
Yes.
Counselor Rivera? Yes. And Counselor Murphy-ROMBOLETTI, yes. So that's 4 yeas, 1 nay. We voted to table that.
There you go.
So, by then,
Move on.
we'll have other information, go from there.
Time to move on.
All right, we're almost done,
Motion
guys.
to take up items 8 and 9 as a package.
How about 10?
10 is,
That's something different?
10 is 10 is also surplus.
oh, okay, and 10.
Motion, is there a second?
Suspend our rules and take 8, 9, and 10 as a package. I second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. So I'm gonna read these quickly. Just lost my agenda. Can I use yours real quick? Okay, 8 is that the city council declare a lot on East Hampton Road as surplus property. And this is 53.5 acres in size. Property is more particularly described, Henry County Registry of Deeds. On May 21st, 2007, property was awarded to the city via land court. The property is zoned business general with an assessed value of $1,119,200. And then item 9 is that the city council vote to declare 118 Newton Street as surplus property available for disposition, required via tax lien foreclosure in 2023. It's 4,270 square feet, zoned downtown residential with an assessed value of $34,300. And last, item 10 is declaring property surplus 138 Cabot Street as surplus for disposition. Property was acquired via judgment in tax lien foreclosure in 23. 2,761 square feet, zoned IG, general industry, and an assessed value of $17,400. So with us again, we have our Conservation Commission Director, Yoni. Come on in. And we've still got our friends on the line, but we have the East Hampton one first, so we'll just do that one. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thanks for waiting.
No
Appreciate
problem.
you.
Thank you. So this is a property on East Hampton Road, as already described. It's known informally as the Edna Williams parcel. That's because there was a tax taking in 2007 that included this parcel and several others, just to the south on East Hampton Road. It's sized as described. I believe the committee received the tax taking spreadsheet from the city treasurer today, so that's where I got the tax taking amount at the time. And yeah, zoning, general business, assessed value as described. Can you go to the next slide, Jeffrey? So obviously this has been bouncing around in conversations over the time period since the tax taking. It was most recently discussed at the 2019 DGR meeting. The reason it's coming back before you today is because my office was contacted by the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game expressing interest in the property and in a possible sale. And the reason they're interested is there's high habitat values on the property. This is just near the western entrance to the Mount Tom Reservation. And what I've provided is a map of the parcel with the DEP wetlands layer turned on, and also the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. So you can see a complex wetland system all along the eastern side of the parcel along East Hampton Road. It's a combination of intermittent streams and bordering vegetated wetlands. It's actually a section of Broad Brook that continues into Rock Valley. And the entire parcel, like much of the area, is classified as estimated and priority habitats of rare wildlife. So I brought this to the mayor. There was interest in at least moving forward with the process to see what an offer might look like from the Department of Mass Fish and Game, which would, again, it would come to the this committee again at a later point for that discussion. But the first step would be to declare it surplus. I'll say that we did receive an initial offer from the Commonwealth, $267,000, which didn't jive with the assessed value.
No.
But we actually hired our own independent appraisal. Actually, Kestrel Land Trust paid for it for us, which was nice of them. And that came back at $250,000. I'm a little perplexed by the previous assessments. If you look at the list going through the years, it more than doubled in value in 2010 from $474,500 to $1,117,000. And I couldn't find any explanation for why this took place. Nothing changed except for the land use code, which could be related. But I did bring the question to the assessor's office, and they didn't have any further information.
General business, I wonder if that probably affects it.
Right. But I don't know that that changed. Right. The code is not the same as the zoning. This is not my particular area of expertise. So that's what I have for you. I can do my best to answer questions, but I wanted to reiterate this is, as you know, the first step of the process. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Yoni. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. And it's neither of our areas of expertise, I understand, but the first thing that jumped out at me is that it's zoned business general.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're hearing it's so limited or potentially so limited. But then do we know really how limited it is in terms of potential development as a business general zoned property? Because it's probably the largest piece of property that we have.
Right.
I mean, is the amount of wetlands and water on it prohibitive, or would there have to be a big study done to know that?
I would never say a property is never developable, but in order to get access from East Hampton Road through that system, it would be a significant hurdle, I guess, through my office. Building through bordering vegetated wetlands is expensive. It requires compensatory mitigation. Any fill you add has to be compensated by creating adjacent wetland structures. And then also I did speak with the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program about what their process would look like. And I was given to understand that it would be a fairly intensive process for them as well. They couldn't tell me exactly what species are there, but there's at least 3 endangered vertebrates, 1 special concern vertebrate, and 1 special concern invertebrate, which I think is a species of moth. So
would that be like the HCC project became?
Right, that's also natural heritage.
That, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I know there's been discussions with the butters over the years through the Office of Planning and Economic Development that nothing ever came of. And
Because that would be
it
log
seems,
cabin, right?
right. And it seems we've had this property for 16 years now, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
That's what I know.
You good? Councilor Bartley and then Councilor McGivern.
Councilor McGivern's first.
Oh, Councilor McGivern.
It's okay, either way.
First.
Declaring it surplus, and I talked to Yoni earlier today, I understand it. I understand what, the purpose of making a conservation land, the difficulty of developing it. We've had that discussion in this room more than one time, and I think we all understand it. But my question is actually, Jamie, you still with us?
Oh, there she is, but you're on mute.
Thank you. The property, I start with the premise that the city doesn't want to own property that we're not using. A lot of times we get it, this particular one, or almost everything we've talked about tonight, because of tax title, because somebody didn't pay their taxes, and eventually we took it in tax title for the purpose of selling it. Now, the city has a number of options for selling property. All of them come through the city council at one point or another. The process most popular is declaring it surplus in an RFP, as you described eloquently, and I commend you for telling us, you know, the people on the RFP committee is tremendous, and I trust each of them. I disagree in that last vote, but that's a whole different story. I don't disagree on this vote if we do an RFP process and we rule out that there is no potential developer out there that could figure out a way how to get to the acres beyond the wetlands and develop it. I understand natural heritage, and if you got the list from them, one of those dangers and species is the only venomous snake in New England. I mean, I'm not against snakes, but venomous snakes, we're protecting something that kills humans. So we're not going to win that argument with them, but there's an argument there. But the other process for selling property is the auction process through the treasurer's office, which I think is defunct because we've not seen an auction list from the treasurer's department, I think, in several years. So if I'm right, will this be an RFP process through your office?
I believe so, yes. It would be an RFP process. And the thing about the RFP process is we're able to craft an RFP to put out to the public what we would like to see as usage of this land. And whether or not there's restrictions, there's, 100 acres of it isn't buildable I'm just throwing something out there. So we are able to craft RFPs as to give some of the uses to which the city would like to see this land being used for.
Okay. I'm not against conservation, and this is a tricky one, and Yoni does a great job. And I mean, we've got per capita more conservation acres in Holyoke than any other community in the Commonwealth. If you start at Mount Nanatuck, come down the mountain range, and just keep going. We per capita, we are by far one of the biggest. But what I am in favor of is, and this happened on the last proposal, is making sure there isn't a way to develop, and the reason is to protect you and to protect Yoni, because we need to develop property to pay your salaries, including that whole RFP committee and your budgets. You don't have a budget if we can't collect tax dollars, and we can't pay your salaries if we can't afford to. So we're all in this together. Like I said, conservation is great. I can show you some other communities that were offered much more money by the Fish, Game, Wildlife, and by the state itself. And they literally sat in this room and told us why we weren't getting a similar offer. But that's here or there. I'm not against conservation, but if we do an RFP process, I'd like to see something that weeds out, is there a developer out there?
And Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, and I'd actually like to follow up on that because that's really where I was going. And so, and Yoni, I'm going to solicit you to at least weigh in to the extent that you can, since you're the one, somebody's contacting you from the Commonwealth. I'm certain that they're going to want to hear back from you. So the Commonwealth, I don't know what the percentage, but I would like to know exactly what the Commonwealth and its various entities owns in the city of Holyoke. So from Mount Tom State Reservation to the Division of Conservation and Recreation to the Fish and Wildlife and whatever other entities out there. I can say that I didn't get a warm, fuzzy feeling from them, especially after what happened with the Mount Tom Quarry and the huge hole that was man-made, dug out, and then all of a sudden it becomes a habitat, and we can't fill it back in with a private investor filling it back in who's going to make it a flush surface. We can't, and we get incredible pushback from DCR, and I know there were citizens in Holyoke that were supporting that as well. Good for them, but it was really led by DCR for whatever reason, and they didn't want to hear from us. Although we approved it, this body, we approved the city council. Ultimately, DCR won and defeated the private property owners' interests. So that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy about about the Commonwealth quite often. So my follow-up to that would be, and I forgot the name of the program, but usually when the state owns property within the municipal bounds, they make some kind of a payment. And I forgot there's a name for it. I'm blanking, and I do apologize. But there's kind of a it's not state aid. It's a different kind of a direct payment based upon some skewed formula. So they pay a fraction of what the actual property tax value would be. They pay that to municipality. I'm not saying you have to at least look that up, but just be aware of it. And so if you could at some point send a communication to us for that, and then making the surplus. Frankly, it's a very big vote because surplus is a 2/3 vote, whereas a conveyance is a simple majority at city council. So it's a huge vote, and to be truthful, I would rather not make the vote now. My preference would be to table this in committee until we hear a lot more from DCR and/or from various abutters relative to this. Because all we're saying is that here, Commonwealth, here's 53.5 acres. Okay, I mean, we get the same value now, or we get the same value then as we are getting now. I don't see what the value. So I mean, I'd feel more comfortable having Councilor McGivern's questions at least preliminarily answered. Is there a potential for development before we send this up to City Council to declare a surplus, which I know we would, but if we're gonna, we should at least have that information in hand before we take a vote like that.
So I have a procedural question, I guess. Doesn't the land need to be put up for surplus before an RFP can go out?
There's no doubt, but you can ask the questions and give us kind of a preliminary answer, I would hope. Just my 2 cents.
Yes, that's correct. You can't put the property out for sale for RFP before surplus. So I understand what Councilor Bartley's saying. I also understand that if we did vote to declare this surplus, we can still get answers to those questions. So I'm just also playing devil's advocate, but Councilor Reagan has her hand up.
Continue the devil's advocate.
Yep.
So my impression is we wouldn't be sitting here having this discussion at all if the state hadn't called and said we want to buy 53 acres for $260,000. So to me, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse right out the gate, right? So if it takes time to get some answers and to look at the potential for development, we probably have no other piece of land of 53 acres in the city left to do anything with, I'm thinking. So I think we should be very deliberate in looking at this and making sure that we look for the best and highest use for the city. And I'm a fan of conservation too, but between our lands that are now protected in perpetuity and all of our properties that are coming off the tax rolls essentially forever, we are rapidly turning into a city with a very small tax base supporting a lot of services. So I just think for a lot this big, and I hear you on the challenges, and I'm sure you're correct in that regard, but I just think we should do our due diligence.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other counselors here? Councilor McGivern.
I agree with the past two speakers, but I think to get to the point that we want to get to is we need the RFP process. And I think, I'd be in favor of the surplus vote. That, DCR should not have maybe even offered a price for it because that doesn't cut mustard with me. If we develop even half of these 53 acres, the potential for what we would get out of that as a city is far more than a one-time shot of $250,000. and they need to take that into consideration. As Councilor Bacon said, it's business general. But I'd be in favor of the surplus property vote to allow the RFP process to go forward if it's under the guidelines that we're talking about here.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And so I heard what they said, and it makes sense, but to me, it makes better sense to leave it in committee, to have OPED take a look at this property, give us their perspective on what the development value is. Why don't we get our data together first? And then we'll still have the 53 and a half acres there, but why don't we, I'd rather refer us back to OPED. Well, listen, you guys talk to development people and just on spec. That happens all the time. I mean, to take the vote now, I think it's really premature. So I'm going to make my motion is to table it in committee.
Okay. So we have a motion to table with a second. Just for what it's worth, I don't think, I think we can do both things. I think we can vote declaring something surplus doesn't mean that it's going to immediately go out to RFP, and there's a lot of steps that we could take. So
Well,
I'll entertain that motion. Shall we vote?
Can I ask a question?
Yoni, sure.
Will the committee entertain, since your next full council meeting's on August 1st, if we were to get if this were to move forward for the full vote then, if we were to get some of the requested information for you by then, would that be something you would be amenable towards?
Councilor Bartley?
Okay, I'll just withdraw my motion for half a second.
withdrawing my second.
I'm just withdraw. I would counter this way, that send us a communication for August 1st, and if the chair is gracious enough to put this in the jacket for August 23rd, what's the difference? Why can't we just vote on it then? Because then we'll actually have the information.
Yeah.
So to me, that would be a fair compromise. So,
sure, Councilor.
And I would just say that
or August 26th,
this
whatever it is.
kind of discussion just sort of makes me feel like we're trying to hurry up for the state. And I don't think that should be our motivation.
Understandable. That's not my take. I'm just trying,
Well, because they're making an offer. I'm saying it based on that. I'm not saying it in any way to like point a finger at anybody. It's just they called up and said, we want this for this.
Okay.
And that's what's driving this whole thing right now.
Councilor McGivern?
Can I ask a question to John Dodger?
Sure. John? Just want to make sure he's, yep, okay. There he is.
Yes, Councilor, yes.
Hi, John. John, I know you're familiar with this property. We all are. It's been within the radar of the city now since 2019 in terms of ownership. Is OPED been looking at this property for potential developers?
Not to my knowledge. I believe part of our office looked at it extensively when the log cabin was looking at expansions, and there were some potential housing interests. So I do think there's some historicals there, primarily through some of the planning analysis, but not marketing it, no.
Is there a report that says why it's not marketable, or?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
So we had a motion to table and a second.
And also, if we could, with a request to OPED to come back to us with some information relative to the marketability of it.
I'll second that.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, if you guys have the capacity to do that much research within the next 6 weeks.
I think they have some information.
Okay. Then let's vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
So moved. That would be 4 yeas, 1 nay. We will table it until the next meeting and hopefully have some more information.
And so the last one
Appreciate you
is the
being
last.
here. Thank you.
Motion to take up, oh no, we're on, sorry about, we got 9 and 10. Yeah, no, 9 and 10 is still before us.
Yeah, still do.
Yep.
A motion that we declare 9 and 10 surplus.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, does John want to present what's going on with these, or what?
I could just briefly say these are vacant lots, one in Newton Street, one on Cabot, just down from High, and the adjacent properties on Newton Street. There's 2 adjacent properties that are city-owned that were already declared surplus, and on Cabot, the adjacent property is city-owned, declared surplus. So our idea is to package them in an RFP. There has been some interest in both these locations, so we think it's pretty straightforward. We'd like to put these out and come back to the council with some good development there.
Motion to approve.
Second? Oh, wait, we already had a motion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we did.
Any opposed?
It's fine. We're on the
Great.
same page.
Awesome. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Jane, Jamie. Oh, no, Jane, don't go anywhere.
Motion to take 11 off the
Jamie,
table.
Thanks, everyone.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 11 is an update from the law department on receivership properties. Yay. So,
We used to get color photos.
I am very excited to just, we'll definitely try not to have this be a really long discussion, but I think it's really important for us to know where things are as it relates to some of these properties. So I don't know the best way to do this, either Attorney Bissonette or Attorney Mantelewski. Do you want to go through all of them? Are there ones that you want to point out that are worth highlighting?
So yeah, I'm happy to do whatever the committee would like. I can go through each one, but there have been some updates to some of them since even this came in or was sent to council on the 20th. So I'm just trying to bring those up quickly here. And so I want to kind of touch on those first. So with respect to the first one of them, 148, 154 High Street, there is that is in a receivership currently. There had been some delays, some death in the family from the receiver's family, and some supply chain issues, but now they are moving along. The Board of Health is going to schedule an interim inspection soon. So, but we did get an email from the receiver's attorney, Attorney Michael Werman, and he represented that this is back on track and should be completed hopefully soon. But we have requested an interim inspection in between that time, so we can just get in and see what is going on. With respect to 160 Pine, we had a hearing on that, I think, on the 23rd. That one's a difficult one. If you probably recall, there was a fire at that property, and the property, the main structure was demolished. There's still a garage standing. At this point, we have both owners deceased, and there's an heir to the property that was residing at the property at the time of the fire. And he is currently located in a rehab facility in Billerica. And the court had ordered a mental health evaluation, and we're trying to work on getting providers there, and it's been somewhat difficult to give him an evaluation for an appointment of a guardian ad litem. So I'm seeking the court's guidance. I'm back there on Monday. And I'm going to try to seek some more guidance on what they want us to do here, because we definitely need to move on this property. It's prime for, a receiver to come in. But we just have some logistical issues with, the heir to the ownership and getting, a guardian ad litem appointed for him.
Attorney Telesky, can I just pause there? Counselor Bartley has a question specifically about that one.
This across, this is on, by the YMCA, the fire?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so this is Kevin. So this is our.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known him for more than a minute. Joe's known him for more than a minute. So he's in Bill Ricca?
He's in Billerica now, right? He just got moved for rehab there. He had been, unfortunately, he was living or had some space at one of the facilities at Providence Ministries, and then he left there, or he might have been transferred to somewhere in Amherst, maybe, but then he left there, and unfortunately he had been residing on the streets for a while, which was truly unfortunate. I've met the gentleman as well. He's very kind-hearted. He was living on the streets for a while, and then he ended up in the emergency room at Bay State, I believe. It was Holyoke Medical.
Yeah, this guy's Holyoke through and through. He cares so much about that property and so much and just have this unbelievable series of events happen. So, all right. I mean, I don't want to go through his personal life, but so he's safe right now, and we're working on what, getting him back to Holyoke, or getting him.
I'm working on trying to get someone appointed to represent his interests.
Okay, all right. That Jane, that's I don't want to drill down too far on it, but boy, that's really wow. Okay, thank you.
I know it's not terrible, but it's a hard situation.
I just wanted to add, Attorney Mantelewski, I just wanted to thank you guys and the fire department and the police department. I was contacted by neighbors who had been expressing concerns about that property for a very long time, and their worst fears were realized when that house caught on fire, and it unfortunately damaged the house that was next door. So I just appreciate the Board of Health, the Law Department. You guys have been communicating with me a lot on that one, so just appreciate seeing that update.
No worries. 1990-1992 Northampton. That one is really, the smoke detectors were installed, so that's good. Now we're waiting. We have a continued date out until August, because the owner of that property, in order to do the demolition, it needs to be done to become code compliant. It needs to handle situation with their tenants, and that would include some sort of either eviction proceeding or having them relocated somewhere. So they are in that process, and we had to give them some time to get that done before they can start their demolition work. So we have a scheduled hearing for that in August. 61 Pine is actually a yay story. We filed that one fairly recently. It was either April or May, and the owner had been essentially missing in action, and as soon as we filed, he ended up finally responding and ended up selling the property to somebody, a third party, and they're now performing work. There was a new roof going on the other day, so it's very exciting. That one is being renovated currently, so we'll be dismissing that action, and we are very happy to see that. With respect to 188 Lyman, we did have a receiver appointed in late June, and it will be Whitman Properties. And so he will be taking over that lot, and the plan is for him hopefully to take over the adjacent lot too, at 190 Lyman, because that's a vacant lot at this time. 188 is the home. So that could be a really great property. for an A&R situation or combining the two some way, and having them sold together, because then it would be a great open space like lot for someone or a small family or larger family, whatever works. So that receiver has been appointed, and so that one is now in the beginning stages in the process. 7882 Newton and 50 West, 4143 Mosier. Inspections just happened this week. Mosier was, I believe, on Monday, and Newton was today. So I'm just waiting on the Board of Health follow-up letter on Mosier West, and then Newton, I did not hear back from the Board of Health on that inspection for today. I think it was happening towards the end of the day. But I'm hopeful. I have a hearing scheduled for that one on Friday, but I'm really hopeful and very expectant that that one is going to be resolved very, very, very soon. And then we have some various matters that we have with outside counsel who have been working with us very well, and then have been doing a great job. One of the updates since the letter, 7476 Newton, we have actually an in-person meeting with the owner next Tuesday at the City Hall, so hopefully we'll make some progress there. And 2729 Cabot, 510 South Bridge, that demolition contract has been awarded. So that will be happening soon as well. So those are kind of the updates since that letter was drafted a few weeks ago. But I'm happy to go over any other specific questions.
Thank you very much for that thorough update and for all that you guys are working on. I'm going to pause there and see if counselors have any questions, comments, concerns. Counselor Bartley.
No, just a compliment to the law department. This is something that a lot of us, when we were counselors a few years ago, we established the receivership program. You got to make sure you thank private attorneys Wilson and Corshane for really bringing this to our attention so many years ago. But Counselor Bresnan, Counselor Leahy, Counselor McGee, whatever, there's several of us that were there when we got this receivership program. You can't forget Attorney,
Was it Kira?
Attorney Cunha for taking the lead on all this too, and the successor attorney. What is my problem?
Crystal.
Attorney Barnes, thank you. So for really kind of leading us through all this process, because it's a lot. It's a lot for the law department. It's confusing stuff, dealing with the housing court. It's a lot to deal with. And never mind the human element with the homeowners and then the tenancy. One question I just had, with 432 Hillside Avenue.
Oh, did I put that update in there? I'm so sorry. What did I have in the letter? What do we have in the letter?
Sorry? You have a letter?
Can you say that again?
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. 432 Hillside ended up being taken in land court in tax title now. So we will be closing that one out on the housing court side, because we did just get that, I believe, last week in tax title.
Okay, so the City of Holyoke, may I?
Yes.
City of Holyoke now will own 432 Hillside?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so obviously we want to then just, dispose of it, we want to turn that on. But okay, well, that's some positive news, because that's been a real thorn in the side of the abutters for a while, as I think Attorney Biston is very aware, because I've sent numerous emails over the course of time relative to that. So, okay, when if I could just get that tax title deed sent to me so I can get it to the abutters as soon as possible, that would be good. And then ultimately, I'd like to get to them what the game plan is on disposing of this. I'm sure we want to get this out and sold quickly, so that'd be great if I could get that intel. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I apologize for interrupting. My brain just started thinking, and I was like, oh gosh, I didn't provide that update. But we did actually talk about it. We had our monthly real estate meeting today, interdepartmental meeting. So we did discuss about possible strategies on that. So that will, I'm presuming being forthcoming fairly shortly, but I will absolutely get you that. It's actually the judgment in the tax title case, and I'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Not seeing anyone. I'll entertain a motion that this is complied with.
You so moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it.